This one. Test, test, test. Are you there? Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that YouTube. Sorry about that. I'm just making jokes about Jesus, so don't worry. It's not like I was saying very much. Thank you, TikTok. And thank you, YouTube, for letting me know that you can hear me or not. So how's it going, everybody? I got a few things that this is kind of an impromptu live. I usually don't go live on Saturdays, but I had a little bit of free time. I got a few things to discuss if we don't mind. Tap that screen, share the live out. Let's get some discussions going if we can. If you are on TikTok and you want to discuss, there is a little button down here to join up. Hazy Benazi says they have a question. What's your question, Hazy? Is Islam right about women? No, absolutely not. What? Islam is not right, like in general. Nor is Christianity. But you know, it's Easter Sunday. It's not Muhammad Sunday. It is Easter Sunday, so I like to focus on Christianity around these times. Jesus is the center of attention always, right? I really wish he wasn't. That's why I said Christians need to stop. First Timothy 2:12, huh? What did Paul say in that one? First Timothy? Is that one that's like, I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. Oh, Guy Fawkes. Here we go.
Howdy, host.
Hi. Can I get your age just real quick for TikTok purposes?
39.
All right. Let me see. I want to make sure you're coming through here. Sorry. What brings you on?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to understand, what do Christians need to stop? What is this fixation with Christians and Christianity?
Well, I mean, have you like heard Pete Hegseth ever talk? Or like, have you seen what Trump is like trying to do with this whole like Easter thing where it's so funny. There's like this recent like post or like video that Trump just had up. But overall, Christians like need to like stop like bullshitting me and acting like they like know what they're talking about, especially when it comes to their own like doctrine or scripture.
I mean, I don't quite understand. You said Pete Hegg said something, then Trump's trying to do something with Easter, and
I'm
then
just saying,
you
like,
rambled.
you guys, like,
What are they trying to do
Christians
specifically?
overall are like trying to shove Christianity as this like national religion down people like myself's throats. And like a lot of people say about the LGBTQ, like, you know, just don't like shove it down my throat, right?
Do you feel the same way when like Mamdani has an iftar, dinner
Your
in his mansion?
whataboutism is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about
I'm just
Christianity. I don't
curious.
give a shit about Mom Donnie because Mom
Uh,
Donnie's in New York. I'm not in New York.
oh, well, what state are you in?
Nebraska.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I mean, look, it's weird because I've never met a Christian that wants to shove their religion down anyone's throat. We are on.
Are you serious?
Well, well, let me just preface this with something here. We're a nation that is predominantly Christian, right? Like the
Yeah,
majority of the
I
people
don't deny
follow the
that.
Christian faith, right? So, it's natural that our national holidays are going to revolve around, the Gregorian calendar, Christmas, Easter, etc. I don't take offense to somebody saying Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Ramadan, whatever the case may be. And I always found it that only when it comes to Christianity do people like have this visceral kind of like reaction to it. And I don't know why. I don't get it.
Well, because there's a lot of things I think that contribute to that. First is, you know, it is everywhere. Like Christianity in at least the Midwest is all over. I can't go like 2 blocks without seeing a bloody Jesus like up on a cross, like hanging from nails, right? And I think that that's like inappropriate. I think that that's weird. I think that that's just like not something that really needs to be like publicized, I guess. You know, have it up inside your house, that's fine, whatever. But
You
like
see it
it
like on
is
public property?
literally all over.
You see it
Not
on public
necessarily on
property.
public property, but
So then
I
what's the
wouldn't be
problem?
surprised. But it is like on billboards. It is on every street block. As far as like churches, it's just, you know, something that I
That's
think
straight up.
that people are really trying to, like, you know, show each other or something like that. I don't get it. Like, if it's not trying to shove it down somebody else's throat, then what is it?
No, but see, this is what. Okay, look again. We're a nation that is predominantly Christian, so
And
naturally,
but we're
and
not a
so hold on.
Christian. We're
Hold,
not like a Christian nation, right?
that's why I
Like,
asked you if you see it on public property. Because if you don't see it on public property, you see it in people's private homes or churches. That's their prerogative. If you go to Minnesota, if you go to the Twin Cities, right, and you go to Minneapolis, St. Paul, you're going to see a lot of mosques. You're going to see a lot of Arabic and Somali writing.
and
Unless you're a big,
does that
okay,
make it okay? I don't get what you're saying.
well, no, does it, hold on. You wouldn't have the same visceral reaction to that as you do to the Christian imagery where
Mm-hmm.
you're in an area that's predominantly Christian. Like, why does that offend you? Unless it's on public property, which I agree, separation of church and state, that shouldn't be offensive for you. I don't know why you take such offense to it.
Because I just wonder like how Christians would feel if I would say that, like, you know, Christians are they might make up a majority of the people in America, but, you know, like Christian, right? So, like, are they really Christian? I would say that more people are just secular, and like there's like not a revival or anything going on. So like people that are attending church is dropping, and so like I don't understand why like a Christian would want to, like, you know, constantly be like showing this imagery where, like, even in the Bible it says like keep it private, keep it between you and God. Don't publicize it, don't, like, you know, evangelize on street corners. Yet here we are, and we aren't in a Christian nation, even though like lots of people are Christian. I understand that, but like huge billboards on like the side of the interstate, it's just like weird to me.
Okay, I mean, again, you're free to express your opinions, obviously, because we do live in a free country. But remember, a billboard is private property. If
Yeah.
somebody wants to pay to put a sign on a billboard, that's their prerogative. Like I said, if you go to a predominantly Jewish neighborhood or Muslim neighborhood or area or whatever, you're going to see a lot more imagery that has to do with those religions. You live in Nebraska, right? Population what, 200,000? You know what I mean? That is probably 99% white and
200,000?
99%
No, I mean Omaha
what's it?
alone like is a like a million person metropolitan area.
Oh, okay, fair. I don't know much of the demographics of
But I
Nebraska,
mean,
but I
yeah,
assume that is.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, yeah. And it's just it's strange and like again, I think that I'm assuming you're probably like left leaning politically.
Yeah.
Yeah. The left is historically supposed to be the tolerant, and accepting and like kind of live and let live. And what I've seen lately from the left is just a lot of intolerance and very much aimed at like
Well,
Christianity and like
it's
white
the
culture, and
paradox
I
of
don't get it.
tolerance, right? It's the paradox of tolerance, you know, like to be intolerant of the intolerant. So a lot of intolerance throughout history, like especially when it comes to, like, you know, the LGBTQ plus, black people, people of color, it spawns a lot from the Christian church. Desegregation was pushed back on by the Christian church, uh, like when Brown versus the Board of Education was going on. There's been, you know, a lot of pushback about gay marriage. You know, they call it abominations. There's the Westboro Baptist Church. So yeah, you know, being intolerant of intolerance, like, is I think the only way to like get out of the tolerance paradox. Because if you're tolerating everything, then you would technically tolerate the intolerance, and that's what, like, you're. It sounds like what you're saying to me is like, you know, you should just, if you're leftist, you're mostly tolerant. So why aren't you like tolerating the like Christians as they, you know, push up like judgy sayings. It's like on a lot of like random signs that like are not really church related, you know? Like, and yeah, I get it. It's private property. Like, they can do what they want. It's freedom of speech, but I don't think it's really helping out Christianity either.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I like that you brought up Popper's
Hey, Danny.
paradox of tolerance of intolerance. I mean, that came about because of the Mustache Man and the German society being tolerant of his ideas, and then eventually his ideas took over, and then absolutely crushed the tolerant society that allowed him to proliferate his messaging. It's ironic because today I see the left as being the intolerant, kind of fascistic minded persons that are
How is the left being fascistic? Can you
in,
please go on about that?
yeah, no, again, like the level of intolerance from the left, intolerance towards Christianity, intolerance towards white people, a lot of bigotry and hate, and even like prejudice. That
Prejudice
there's
against white people? I'm white and I don't feel prejudice.
you're probably also someone who feels that they should be guilty for crimes of white people of the past. You probably say you apologize to ethnic, social, racial demographics on behalf of all people. And it's always been so strange to me to think that anyone living in 2026 should apologize for something someone did 150 years ago.
I think you're
you know
you're
like
I think you're mistaking uh what is trying to be accomplished with like teaching like systemic racism and recognizing like what happened in the past. See, there's a very big push, especially from Christian nationalists, people like Charlie Kirk, TPUSA, where they want to revise history. In fact, in Nebraska, they've been trying to like put up like in the state like a TPUSA sponsored artwork that was like about like Harriet Tubman and stuff, and like rewriting how like slavery was looked at. There's rhetoric about how the Civil War was never caused because of slavery. It was more about like whether or not,
economics.
yeah, economics, and
But you know what's funny? I
that's
had an economics
revisionist.
teacher,
That's
but
revisionist though.
I had an economics teacher
It was
years
most
ago.
definitely about
Okay,
slavery.
hold on. So I mean, yes, slavery was definitely an aspect of it, but it had to do with the economics of slavery. I had an economics
Oh, for
teacher
fuck's
who,
sake. The
hold on, bear with
economics
me.
of slavery?
Well,
Are
bear
you
with me.
fucking kidding me? Like right now,
See, this
are
is
we
what.
really like discussing this? Like, oh well, it's
Oh,
economically sound, like it was making people a lot
no,
of
no,
money
no.
and they didn't, even
You got
though humans were treated like chattel in property, which
you
all the way by the way, God's fine with in the Bible. But
you got to stop. You hold on. You got to just let me. No, again, there's a reason that I
okay,
brought it up. Give me a second. Just give me a wide berth here
go
for a
ahead.
second. No one is suggesting that slavery is good. We're glad that it's gone. Everyone agrees with that. But we're talking about the causes of the Civil War. It's not necessarily that the Confederacy and those in the South wanted to keep slavery as part of their culture. Many historians have argued that it was very much due to the investment and the unwillingness of the federal government to compensate for said investment. That doesn't change the fact that it was abhorrent and it was wrong. But when we say, or when economists say that it had to do with economics, we're talking about the basically loss of livelihood and loss of investment that was incurred had they had just given
But
up
what the
slavery
fuck? Who
on
gives
day
a
one.
shit? Like,
It's
honestly,
easy to say that, but yeah,
no,
that was the cause, though.
it's fucking sane to say that because you're saying like, oh, the loss of like all these things that people had, they were literally like torturing other humans. They were
Yeah,
keeping
it was,
them
it was abhorrent. I
like
agree.
livestock. I
I,
think
I,
to
I
argue it in an economic sense, it invalidates like how like inhumane it was. Like that's
so
ridiculous. Like I get
no, no.
what you're
So listen,
saying. I get like
you understand what
why
I'm saying?
people
Yeah.
might have been a little upset about it, but they were mostly mad because they were going to lose their like free labor.
Well, no, it wasn't just a matter of loss of the free labor, which played a part, but it had to do with the investment. And I don't want. Obviously, it's a very sensitive subject, but maybe we should just change subject because it's very touchy, obviously. And I agree with you. It's an abhorrent practice, and I'm glad that it's gone. And they should have had a better mechanism in place to make sure that those who had invested had been compensated, so that there wasn't any cause for them to feel that they need to go to war. You know what I mean? Like
No,
I
fuck
agree with
that.
you.
No, I'd say like,
Really?
yeah, the treatment that they were giving, I don't think anything but a war would have probably ended that, right? Like to compensate, like to pay people for this horrid thing that they've been doing. Like I don't. What are you saying? Like oh, it was a different time. They didn't know any better. They were just keeping other humans as livestock. No big deal. Like what?
I mean, look, we can, if at some point in history, there may be a reality in which we no longer eat animals for food, for example. And they may look at us back and say that we were absolute savages for even thinking
I
about it. Or
agree.
abortion,
Like,
for
hey,
example.
I eat
Right.
meat. Don't get me wrong, but I admit that vegans have like whatever, like if you want to call it a better position on it all, like when it comes to suffering and animal like cruelty and stuff, the vegans win that debate. So
I mean,
like
there's a
that's
real life right
that's
now
something that I'm
contemporary
aware of
argument.
and I'm not apologetic of. Like I eat meat and it sucks, like I'm not very like happy about it, but uh it
Right.
is like we're
Well,
shitty people.
there's a contemporary conversation that's being had as we now discuss, right? With the conversation about abortion, the immorality of it versus the concept of body autonomy. Both sides have valid arguments, wouldn't you say?
No.
You don't see, so let me ask you a question. Do you think that a person in their second or third trimester
Why is this
should be
moving to an
allowed?
abortion argument?
No, no, because it has to do with the
There's nothing in
conversation
the like
of
moral
morality.
more is it like a Christian moral that you're trying to say, or is it like a because God had like Jesus and God have like no like preservation of life that I could read out of the Bible. Like
It,
the way that God in the Old Testament, for instance, just like wiped out whole like civilizations or commanded it. The abortion argument is nil. Like it's done.
put aside the religious conversation
Well,
with
then what do
perspective
you?
of
I mean, like, what's the argument then? Like, other than trying to make it a Christian argument?
well, there is a moral argument about life, about respecting of life and
Yeah.
understanding
So
that.
respect the mother's life.
Right, but what about the infant's life, for example?
It's not an infant; it's a fetus.
A fetus, excuse me. What about the fetus's life?
I'm sure that people aren't like maliciously. I mean, maybe some, but I don't think that like a lot of people that are getting abortions are doing it out of like hate or like malice, right? So this like protection of life and like this murder aspect that they try and place on it is wild to me. Like to make it like this moral thing. Like, you don't think that it's not like a hard fucking decision for women to go in and get one of those?
I think it is, but it doesn't change the act itself. Meaning, a fetus at 22 weeks is fully formed for all intents and purposes, has a heart, has a brain, and is
Yeah,
the
and
size of.
how many abortions do you think, like elective abortions that are not like absolutely medically necessary, are happening after 22 weeks? Like this
We
is
could look it
such
up, but do you think
this
that
is
one is
such
too many?
like a narrowed like viewpoint on something. Like I thought that it was more interesting to talk about like slavery and how like that was, definitely like a
It
moral thing.
it's connected though,
Okay, how is
because
abortion and slavery connected?
it's the idea of having a conversation about um, things that about morality, okay, and the perspective of morality and how it divides societies. Now, abortion specifically doesn't have much of an economic aspect to it, much like slavery did 150 years ago, right? Like it's not like a loss of investment, so to speak. So we could be far more or less, or we can understand the divisiveness that it created that caused an eventual war. Today, it's one that really just focuses on the social differences that we have and how we perceive abortions. But it is relevant because, again, there is a moral conversation to be had beyond religion. If even one elective abortion happens at beyond 22 weeks or even beyond, I mean, a baby is starting, or excuse me, a fetus is being formed already at 6 weeks. There's a heartbeat. There's an argument to be had. Is this life? And is it wrong to extinguish the life just because we choose to and not because it's
So
medically necessary?
like to narrow it
Yeah.
down to like, is this a life or is this not a life is odd to me. There's also like the idea of personhood, and I think that that does relate to slavery, right? So like
Okay.
for instance, I'm gonna bring up the Bible again, but like in Leviticus chapter
Fair enough.
25, uh verses 44 through 46, it mentions that of the nations around you, you can go and get these slaves, and of these slaves they are treated like property. Now that is a very like big part of it, right? Is to treat like a human, a person, as property. They are no longer a person, so their personhood is taken from them. Now we attribute personhood to like fetuses too, and I think that that's fine. Like potential, like fetuses, like it would be heartbreaking to have a miscarriage, right? When you're expecting like a child, and like this personhood is, I think, like a very like big part of like what is going on, like as far as how each side of the abortion argument looks at it. uh like a lot of people will say that like a fetus is not necessarily a person because it hasn't like really expressed itself, right? Like or become this person. You may have projected some things onto it, but like a slave, like an actual human that is like living and has a history and all these things and interacted with others, they have established this personhood. So like this projection onto like the fetus, this like being, when I don't remember being in the womb, do you?
Well, I'm a genius. I do. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I don't remember being in the womb,
Right, well,
but
like, so
so is
to
personhood though
project a
the
personhood
yeah.
onto it is more of an expectation when you're pregnant. It's not necessarily like that there's this already like I mean, a lot of people don't even know like the sex of the child, or like the growing life within them. So I think that that's a big part of it. Now, that all being said, I don't think that like after 22 weeks, a lot of abortions are happening. And like, I think that like Christians, for a lot of it, like attribute it to murder, like it's premeditated and there's malice. And I think that that's like, they should definitely stop that. That's just silly.
So that's where it gets a little bit more political, right? With the rhetoric, specifically calling it murder and whatnot. Again, the thing that I wanted to focus on, okay, so you said personhood. So does only an entity that has self-awareness a person? Meaning, what's the difference between a fetus
Personhood,
that,
I
one second, let
believe,
me just ask the question. Let me
requires
just ask the question.
others.
What is the difference between a fetus that is 8 months in the womb and a baby that was born and is 1 day old? Outside of that, maybe several weeks.
There's a whole lot of difference. First off, one
What
is
what is
breathing
it?
on its own.
The infant at eight months would be able to breathe on its own if it was
But
removed from the womb.
is it breathing on its own?
At that moment, no.
No, it's using the resources of another, right? So, for instance, say that I had complete kidney failure, and for whatever reason, the only like person that can provide me like clean blood is you. So now, by accident or something, unintentionally, you and I have been hooked up together. Would you uh feel bad like if for cutting me off, if like I'm like using your kidneys without your permission, other than maybe you like made a mistake 9 months ago?
I mean, it's such a weird hypothetical because it would
No,
require
is it
me
that
first.
weird? Is it really that
It
weird?
kind of it kind of is weird because again, this is a matter of like it, you're suggesting that You and I get hooked up. I consent to hooking up with
No,
you,
no,
right?
no,
Or
no,
hooking up
no.
to you.
You've either
No?
like made a mistake in the past. Maybe somebody forced us to be hooked together. Like you were sleeping and then you woke up and then all of a sudden I'm hooked up to you. And the only way for me to not be hooked up to you is to unalive me.
Okay, but then you're kind of making my argument for me. Do
So
you think that I
would you
should?
just like keep me hooked up to you?
Well, the
You can't
question. Okay,
move
so
anywhere. I mean, you're limited in your movement. How about that? Like you're limited in your movement. It's taking away nutrients. You know, like your teeth is going. They're going bad. Your bones are like they're becoming less dense. Your hormones are all over the place.
I mean, that's an interesting question. Would you reverse it? Let me ask you, would you unhook me knowing that you're going to unalive me?
Yeah, it's
Me,
my
I'm looking
fucking
at you and
body. I'm sorry. This is
I
not.
would talk to you. I would look at you and say, hey, dude, Benny boy, all right, my name is Guy Fox. If you unhook me right now,
No, no,
I'm
no.
going to be unalive.
Sorry, I'm unconscious. You can't talk to me.
Oh, okay. So I'm unconscious, you can't talk to me, but you're looking at me.
All
I
you can
think, I
do
mean,
is like you
all
can
right,
feel kicks
you're
from
answering
me.
it.
Hey,
I mean,
godless.
I get what you're saying. So let me refine the question then. How about what's the difference between a baby, excuse me, a fetus who hasn't been born, and then a fetus that was born a minute later?
Like I said,
Breathing?
the one, yeah, breathing is a big part. Like to able to like sustain your own life, to not to no longer require the like other's body is a big issue, right? Like now to say like personhood, I'm not sure if like a an infant that's just born, it's definitely going to have a little bit higher and like in the scale of personhood to me, like as far as like others, like I'm talking like the super ego, right? Or like the perceived like person from others. They are hearing the voice, they are seeing it breathe, like it's definitely like its own thing now. It's no longer like an extension there. So yeah, I would say like that's two of the differences. Oh, it like disconnected me. It's trying to reconnect.
Yeah, you
Hello?
got a little glitchy there for a second.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
It's okay. It's
So
okay. You got glitched there. Maybe you lost connectivity for a second.
where'd you lose me at?
You were saying like personhood and mother, something along those lines.
So yeah, when a baby is born, like in the umbilical cord is cut and everything. Now this being is like attaining more personhood. You're hearing its voice. You're seeing it breathe on its own. Like it's no longer like an extension of the mother.
I mean, so but this is. I mean, look. I think
And
I'm
I
a
think that that's
pragmatic
like the
person.
biggest part here is that we need to like focus on the fact that this is like within and using the resources of another like person or like human, right? Like it's the mother that we need to like kind of focus on. I don't think that like babies are like pregnancies that are past 23 weeks or that are viable uh are gonna like make up for a ton of the actual like abortions that go on, right? Like the bans that are in like being in place are like 6-week bans, and that's wild to me. Like from what I hear, like women don't even like half the time find out they're pregnant that like early, and then to say like no, you're forced to keep this. Like you may not have realized that you were pregnant, but you are. Now your body's going to go through all of this shit that you might not be prepared for, not even like economically, but I'm saying like biologically, because it's going to throw your whole system for a loop. And the government is telling people like, you're forced to keep that. You have no choice otherwise.
I mean, so there's another
That sounds to
discussion
me
topic
like a
is,
form of slavery.
well, here's another discussion topic, accountability. I mean, we live in a society with rules and laws. We take actions, there are consequences. Do you feel that people should be more accountable for their actions, specifically when it comes to something as serious as like procreation and pregnancy on both sides, by the way, both the man and the woman?
Sorry,
Being responsible.
my
Can you hear me?
robot vacuum was just like shouting something, and I was like, "What the hell? Is there somebody else in my house right now?" Sorry. She's
Better get
stuck.
that pew pew out, man. Get that pew pew out.
I'm projecting. See, like I call her she. She's a robot. It's just a Roomba, right? But like I'm projecting a lot of personhood onto her. Her name is
Okay.
Cinderella. But okay,
You want
so
you want me to repeat the question?
yeah, repeat it.
So, how did I put it? How did I phrase it? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. It leads to another discussion topic of personal accountability and responsibility. I mean, we live in a society with rules and norms and laws. We take actions, we have consequences for said actions. At what point, though, do we expect people to be more accountable for their actions? Both the man and the woman that decide to engage in coitus and
This is
you
like
know
putting way too much like again, we're projecting all of this like expectation onto the future. Like, okay, this like potential life apparently is worth so much. It's worth so much that now like even engaging in sexual intercourse is something that people need to take like insanely seriously, as if it were like every single time is creating this like brand new life. We know that that's not the case. A lot of times, people, it's not like you just snap and get pregnant. It's sometimes you do,
I know it. No,
but
I know it's actually really hard. I mean, actually, there's couples who struggle to get pregnant, but like, what's the difference between engaging in coitus and say somebody going and having a night out and drinking and then deciding to get behind the wheel? Meaning their actions are going to have consequences. When are we expecting individuals who take actions to be
that's a
accountable
weird
for said
analogy
actions?
to me. That's
Why
a
is it a weird
really
analogy? There's risk involved in everything.
well. I feel like consent is another thing too, right? Like to consensually like have intercourse and then like to compare that to like drinking and then driving. Like the people that are potentially at risk when you're drinking and driving are not consenting to that.
But need okay, so but this is exactly what I'm saying. The potential of pregnancy and therefore the zygote or the fetus, right, isn't consenting to you deciding to get laid without a condom and being
What the
irresponsible.
potential so like 10 years from now a potential life is not consenting to something. Should we not decide on that then? Like, what are you saying? Like this potential non-existent thing is consenting or not consenting? I like what?
No, you said that a person, it's a bad analogy because the person getting behind the wheel, right, after they drink, they're putting other people at risk because those people aren't consenting to be on the road with someone who's drunk, correct?
Well, that or yeah, or any other like risk that can be
And
involved.
right, there's plenty of risk, exactly. So my argument was you decide to, have unprotected sex, you decide to be irresponsible, okay, and then you get pregnant. The zygote slash fetus, how is that thing responsible for your
Well,
actions and your
it's a clump of cells.
irresponsibility?
It has no like ability to consent.
No,
So you're projecting this like fully formed like consenting like decision making human onto
it's
like
life.
a
It's
clump
life
of
though.
cells.
It's life. It's
Yeah,
life.
but also there is like a fully formed human that the clump of cells is within, right? I mean, what do we like? Is it teratoma life? They say that some teratomas, which are like cancerous tumors within people, certain
Yeah.
people that can grow hair, eyes. They can even like grow like very uh, primitive like spinal columns. Is that life? Would that be considered an abortion to take out this cancerous tumor?
It's great. I mean, fine. Yes, and so are viruses, and so are trees, and so are dogs. We have laws to protect dogs, don't we? And that they're not personhood. They don't think the way that we do. They don't have the same cognitive abilities, and we do take actions to protect them and safeguard them from, harm.
I
Same
think
with
that
trees, by the way.
like there is like if a woman is pregnant or like somebody with a uterus is pregnant, and somebody like unalives them in some states, that they consider that that they double up the charges, or things like that. And
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
now I think that that's like an interesting topic to discuss. I'm not sure if like there's one way to like consider that like correct or incorrect. I think that if they are fully expecting, and the doctor is saying like, still like I think that there's a difference between that and like abortion, because there
Why
is.
though? Why?
Why?
If the person's 6 weeks
Thank
pregnant,
you.
like you just said,
Oh, dang it, guy
they
got
they
it.
get yeah, they hooked me up, bro. It's okay.
No,
I'm gonna be good
you're
for your
fine.
life. Don't worry. I'll bring in some guests.
Sure.
I'll bring in some audience. No, if the person is 6 weeks pregnant, right? This is like you said, a clump of cells that's not fully formed. They are unalived. They didn't have any intention of having an abortion. That clump of cells is unalived. Many would argue that yes, that person should be charged twice for two unalivings, and it's not even controversial. So is it just a matter of the person's
It is a little
choice that it,
controversial. I would be interested in how others like felt about that.
W
Uh,
Sarah in the comment section real quick though for everyone. Sarah's the best.
yeah, W Sarah.
Sorry.
I mean, cool. Like I'm all for people supporting others. Now beyond, like, honestly, I don't really care, or like want, not really care, but I care, but I don't really feel like comfortable talking about abortion too far into it, because I'm not going to ever get pregnant. You're not going to ever get pregnant. So
Fair
why are
enough.
we talking about this? Like, let's leave it
Well,
up to the
yeah,
people
yeah.
that could and will, or in their health professionals. We don't have this, like, potentiality, and to like attribute things and choices without like that lived experience or potential lived experience kind of may. Oh, thank you, Sarah.
W Sarah in the comment section.
Yeah, a huge
Everybody.
W. Big W. So like, I just feel like this is something that the people that it directly impacts should maybe discuss more. uh but I think it's an interesting conversation in the like broader sense of like prohibition, whether or not we should ban something outright, like the 6 week thing. I think that there's things that are able to be discussed, but as far as like the choice to get one, or to like completely ban or push it away, I think that that's like messed up to take that choice away from whoever it is like directly affecting.
I have another question for you. This you're gonna like this one.
Sure.
The government typically deems a man who impregnates a woman that once that baby is born, that man is financially responsible for it, and the woman can sue for not alimony, but like child support, excuse me, and can, you can have your wages garnished. You can have, the government can do a lot to you. Now, I think that's a good thing. Meaning, hey, dude, you took your wing out of your pants and you did something with it. That's
The
personal
government's not
responsibility.
doing that. That's if the woman chooses to.
Well, if the exactly, but the woman has government backing and recourse if she chooses to, right? Meaning that there's a mechanism in place to ensure that the man takes responsibility. And I agree with that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question: do you feel that a man should have a say then on whether or not a woman has an abortion? So let's say a man and a woman are
No, a
together.
man should not.
But, but then if they're responsible once the baby is born,
I don't give a
why
shit.
don't they have a say?
Bottom, like, money,
Why don't you give a shit?
and like choosing whether or not like somebody is forced to carry something in their body. As somebody that, like, again, like, now I will bring a little bit of lived experience, but like, I'm a cancer survivor, and like, if somebody told me like, hey, you're forced to hold these like tumors inside of you, uh that's fucked up, right? And like, no, get them out of me. And like, that's me, this is my body, like, that's it. I don't want
So
some
the
other,
man
like,
should have no say?
my spouse should not be deciding whether or not I get a tumor taken out of me. That's wild.
But again, the way that you're comparing and contrasting a tumor that is
A
literally
clump of
destroying
cells,
you
a
to
living clump of cells.
but it's a living clump of cells that will be a human being if you give it the chance to grow naturally. Like
Where do you draw the
it's not
line at
just
that? See, like these things are
a cancer cells will
again.
never grow to be a human being, right?
I'm an antinatalist. If you haven't like kind of picked up on that, I personally don't think that like bringing humans like into society, especially right now, is like necessarily a great idea. So like,
Okay.
and like
That's
in
a hot
fact,
take.
like living in a way is like suffering. I think that like the less suffering, probably the better. So I'm
Dang,
not
are you a
necessarily like,
nihilist?
yeah, in a way, yeah. But
Dang,
at the
no, you
same
shouldn't be
time,
one.
like, I mean, I'm an absurdist too. Like, I think that, if you are here, you're dealt the cards you're dealt, make the best of them. But like
Okay,
to
okay, that's
talk about
optimistic.
consent, like what about like parents that are bringing a child in, like purposefully, did that child consent to be born?
I, I mean, they didn't consent to be born, but
You know
it's
how many
the
people
odds.
I've heard say like, I wish my parents never had me.
And you know why? Because of this nihilism that's sweeping our planet. Bro, listen, do you know what the odds of you being born are? They've broken this down. Your chances of being born are less than winning the Powerball like 100 times
That is
over.
weird. Like, I think that
It's
like
not though. It's that
to
think
break
about how
things. No,
much of
no,
a
no, no, no.
gift to
Listen to
be
me.
born
Listen
is,
to
man,
me.
to be alive.
No, like you're taking something that's already fact and then saying like, do you know what the chances are of this like thing that like, no, the chances are of me existing are 100% because I'm existing right now.
No,
Right.
obviously, but I'm saying of you as you are with your genetic makeup, with your
If
mind.
my parents like did the dirty like 2 minutes after when they did the dirty, then it wouldn't be me. Whoop, like
Forget about doing the dirty, the millions of sperm that managed to get through everything, and the one that was able to break through the egg and to inseminate it. That's you, dude. You do realize that. That's you.
is it though?
And that is it is,
Like
bro.
for
It's so
instance,
rare.
and this is like gets into like a philosophical thing, and then I kind of want to move on.
Sure.
But like, say somebody went in the past and changed something in your life. Now is that person that had like continues on from your life that was changed? Is that still you?
This is a weird hypothetical because we don't have time machines, but we do know how inseminating eggs works, and it does happen
Okay,
every day.
let's see. Let me see if I can like figure out another one that might make more sense to you. Uh, say you tell this is possible too, right? So like
Sure.
they could reprint you like somewhere else, like as a teleportation device. Like it breaks you down in one spot, sends all the information over, and then like puts it back together, and it looks like you, it talks like you, it has the memories that you do, but is it you?
You're a Trekkie, aren't you? You're a Star Trek fan, because
I
so
do
am
like
I.
Star Trek, yeah.
I love Star Trek, the old stuff, not the new garbage they're
Uh,
making.
yeah,
Um,
Voyager was the best Star Trek, by the way. But
Deep Space Nine, I've and
Deep Space Nine
Picard,
was good too.
the
Like
goat.
all those like
Yeah.
'90s, early 2000s ones were pretty
Dude,
good.
we can nerd out all day
Yeah.
long here if you want to talk about Star
But
Trek.
like,
I'm
but
down
what
with
I'm
that.
saying though is that like, yeah, like I can't necessarily put that kind of probability to that. So, and like, it's an interesting thing to talk about, like abortion and everything. But in the end, like, I'm very, very aware of like the fact that telling somebody that they have to like continue on like carrying this pregnancy that they may not want is like akin to slavery to me. Like that's taking away a very like primal thing that I don't know if men would ever have anything like comparable to even like consider, right? Like it would be like saying that I like the kidney thing is the closest thing that I could like come up with. Like
I
do you
mean,
understand that?
yeah,
Like to
I
force
understand that.
to
Yeah.
force a woman to say like, hey, you can't, you have no choice, you have to carry this, like whether or not you want to or not, like it doesn't matter, you have to, like that's where I'm like, okay, that's a little messed up.
And I I get it. I get your perspective. And I get also like a woman who, for whatever different circumstances in her life or just her choice to not want to carry to term and have this being come out of her and exist. I can understand the person's wanting choice. I'm not against that. I'm playing a little bit of a devil's advocate because I'm
Are you for
in my
like, okay, I guess we could
yeah.
kind of change this a little bit into something more kind of along the lines of what I like to discuss. Are you for like social programs, like for like government subsidized like childcare?
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background. I used to be a Bernie bro. Okay,
Mhm.
I drank the Kool-Aid. I was a leftist, and I believe that we should have certain social welfare programs because they do it better than the private sector. But as I've grown older, and as I've seen, and I've traveled, and I've lived in other countries, I've seen the problems with um, socialized systems and the waste and the lack of incentive. And the end result is
Where
always
can you give
failure.
like an example?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I did my master's in London, so I've lived in Britain. I've lived in other countries that have socialized healthcare, and socialized education.
And what specifically like are the problems that you're saying like are wastes or problems?
Um, well, primarily with the bureaucracies that are involved. Now, look, let me also just add something. I, I'll be honest that from my understanding and from my just experience, the socialized healthcare systems are far more effective and cheaper than the for-profit private system we have in the United States. It is what it is. It's just a fact. Anywhere I've gone, anywhere I've seen, even Ross Perot, who was a vehemently libertarian, made the argument that if we can't come up with a good piece of legislation to address healthcare costs, at minimum we can adopt one of the many systems around the world that just do it better than we do, provide more access, and do it for cheaper, whether
Okay,
it be
but
Canada, Britain, France, Israel, Japan, whatever. So
so like
I'm on board with that.
have you looked at like things like adoption numbers in countries that are like implementing socialized healthcare or like socialized programs for people to survive? It's more than just healthcare too. You know, it could be like a SNAP program or something similar to that. Uh, it's about like the ability to also like raise this like human uh like affordably without like so much undue hardship. Uh, for instance, the UK has a lower relative to the population than the US like adoption rate. Another place like the Netherlands, like adoption's almost like completely like not a thing. The same with Australia. Why is that? Like a lot of
I
people.
would assume because people have more abortions.
No, it's because
No?
they don't put their kids up for adoption because they don't fear like the cost, or like they have the like things in place that make it not as scary to or like detrimental to not only the quality of your life but the quality of the person that you're bringing up's life. So like in America, kids are like aging out of adoption. It's wild to me that we have such a stance, like a lot of people have such a stance on abortion, but when it comes to like socialized programs and stuff, they either like don't talk about it, or they get very selfish and they say like, well, not out of my tax dollars. Meanwhile, like what the hell are we paying for like lobsters and shit for the defense department?
Oh
Like
no, no, don't bring that up. That was such a fugazi headline that was brought up by mainstream media to try to demonize Pete
it's
Hegseth.
not the specific here. What I'm saying is
Okay, okay,
that you
fair enough, fair
don't
enough.
know all the things that your taxes go to, right? Like
Right,
it goes
right.
to frivolous things all the time.
Well, let me just
Obviously,
answer this. Yeah.
the like lack of adoption numbers in these other like very like established countries is something that we should look at a little bit more, I think. Like
Fair enough, and I
if
can't speak on it.
adoption is like almost going to be wiped out, then like we need to figure out like how do we get on that boat.
So I can't speak on too much about adoption or the rates of adoption and the
That
circumstances. I do
see, I
know
feel
that.
like you
But
should be
let
able
me
to talk about that
give me
with the
give me
way
just
that you
give me
have
just
like you're able to speak so much about abortion that you should also be able to talk this much about adoption.
fair, and I should probably do more reading about that. But look, if I were to just on the surface
I mean, like if you truly
extrapolate from
care, that
what
at least.
let me just yeah let me just land my plane on this one. And when you look at the countries that have socialized healthcare, you would assume that therefore abortion is covered, right? Meaning that a person wants to get an abortion, it's part of that basket of goods that they can go and get an abortion, not pay out of pocket. Now,
This is like
you could say that
adoption though. Like this is like of like born.
no, but so for if in the United States we don't have that mechanism, there's not that financial ease to do it, and it's actually becomes a financial burden, and some people just choose not to go through it because they can't afford it on the spot. Now, look at the problems that the European countries who have socialized healthcare, who allow for abortions to, happen, basically freely and openly and unlimited. They got to a point where they're not even having a replacement within their population, meaning they're having less than two kids per
Again, like
couple.
I think that like birth rates and stuff. What's the like that sounds like weird capitalism to me. Like that sounds like we're not going to have enough workers to support our economy.
Well, that's exactly but this is exactly the argument against socialized anything because if the federal government has become so large that it requires that many more taxpayers to pay into the system, you then become insolvent when you don't have people. So what do they substitute it with? Immigration. Why do you think that Europeans are suffering the immigration problems that they are suffering from? And the shifting in
Suffering?
demographics to the
Do you think that there's like a suffering that's going on, or is it blown up?
oh, very much so. No, no, bro.
Well, like okay,
Speak to some
what's the
Europeans.
UK like immigration problems?
I mean, so it's a matter of shifting demographics and immigration
So
from culture.
demographics are shifting. Ooh, scary.
It's not, well, hold on. It's not just a matter of ooh, scary demographic shifting. It's difference in culture, ideology, belief systems, and way of life. So yeah, when you have a semi-homogeneous society that's been growing and adapting and evolving for centuries, and all of a sudden you insert societies and cultures from around the world that
That
are
sounds good to me.
opposite.
I like multiculturalism. Like
Oh,
multiculturalism is like
you should
proven.
go live in Europe, brother. You should go. It's not proven,
Multiculturalism has
man.
been proven to be like beneficial to humans overall. Like we have a lot
I
of
don't
like
know about that. Not the
random
way that it's being implemented now.
uh like there's a lot of isolationism that goes on, and then there's these like strong feelings when like it feels like your heritage or culture is like put into danger. When like why are we trying to like preserve, I mean I get it, like there's pride and everything, but to like try and preserve it is not necessarily like done away with by experiencing another culture. I think that being exposed to and interacting with other cultures can only help us understand each other better.
Again, I'm not a bigot. I don't care. I'm not like, ew, get away from me, xenophobic type. But like, there is something to be said about natural kind of immigration, where those immigrants come to your society, adapt, acclimate, assimilate, and then, wave the flag and salute the flag and be part of that
I think
community and
we're,
society.
I mean, with technology
Hold
and
on,
things, is that necessary? Like, shit, we got like
it
headphones
very
now
much is.
that can like translate. Like, we're again like moving into like a Star Trek kind of thing. Like
Well,
where technology can translate people in real time. So, like, is it necessarily like you need to assimilate? I don't understand why like assimilation is such a like big deal, other than
because
like
the
this
barrier
weird.
isn't just the
Okay.
barrier isn't just like a language barrier. It's a culture barrier. It's social norms. There are places on this planet that believe that a person can marry another person when they're 12 years old. Do you think that that's good? Do you think that that should be
No,
introduced in America? Okay, but that's what I'm
it
saying.
is
So it's
that's like almost like
cultural.
American though. There's like literally states in America that are trying to like pass shit like that as legislation, like to okay it. Like Tennessee,
Well,
for
I've
instance.
not seen that. Well, I've never seen anything remotely close to that. 12 years old, 9 years old, I've never seen anything of that. Or how about, for example, honor killings? A father who feels that his daughter dishonored them, in some societies, it's perfectly normal for that father to unalive his daughter. And that's happened here because we've included some immigration from those parts of the world without properly assimilating them and making them be like, hey, these are the norms here. Do you think that that's something that we should adopt and be tolerant of?
Where was that marriage bill?
Obviously not, right?
So no, but at the same time,
But it happens.
I think that
Yeah.
like understanding it and maybe like by example and like civil discussion or like showing like okay, well this is like what we do, like maybe the people that are being affected by that would decide, hey, I no longer want to be part of this like culture that's trying to hurt me. I want to join the culture that or like evolve into this culture that, or at least this part of the culture that I'm looking at, that wouldn't harm me. Like I think that multiculturalism is only like good to like allow us to kind of see each other's, like work with each other and collaborate and hopefully progress. To like isolate cultures out like away from each other, we're just gonna stagnate.
So I never suggested isolation. I'm not an isolationist. Again, when I was describing the Europeans, I was describing their unfettered, basically migration without steps and phases of assimilation. Europe adopted what was called like a mixed salad approach, meaning that you come from, for example, in Britain, you come from Bangladesh or India or Pakistan, you can isolate within your own communities. You're not committed to salute the flag and say the kings and all these other things and be patriotic to your new nation state. Now, for the first generation that immigrated, they were just happy to get away from the reality that they got away from, but it left a void for the second and third generations that were brown, came from these cultures, but weren't quite British, but they speak with a Manchester accent, which then results in an emptiness of identity, which is usually filled with extremism, and that's why they've experienced the wave of theism that they have. The United States did it far better because the United States was a matter of melting pot. You can come to America, you can keep your culture and your food and your traditions, but you know what? You're saluting the flag, you're pledging allegiance, and you're an American. Now, we've also lost a bit of that because of the levels of
What?
unfettered, undocumented immigration that has come in, and also this wave of anti-American sentiment and anti-Western sentiment that's stricken us for a long time. But you know what I mean? Like, this is something that I actually studied. This is something that I actually focused on, and it's an epidemic in Europe, and they're seeing the results of it right now. And you should bring up a European. I think there's one in the comment section. Maybe he's requesting palliative. He's a British guy, and he could tell you about it. He's British and Greek, so he could tell you a little about it more as a personal anecdote. There
Palliative.
he is.
Uh,
Hello.
can I get your age just real quick?
Yeah, I'm 25.
Are you European?
Oh, you're a baby. I didn't know you were so
Yeah,
young.
I'm
Jesus.
European. Yeah, I'm very much a baby. Why do you think I look so good for my age?
Okay,
Ah,
okay. I
funny
do hear
guy.
a little bit of an accent. I was like, I don't hear an accent. But
No, I'm definitely European. I do want to correct you on one major thing though, because I've literally lobbied in the Parliament of the United Kingdom for this. It
mhm.
is not the case that adoptions in the UK are lower because we have a prevalence of other things in our society. It is the case that we have a 6-week ban on consent being given by the mother, and it's handled by local authorities. I also spent time in the care system. We don't have an easy adoption process. In fact, it's very difficult to get adopted, much harder than it is in the United States because it's decided by local authorities, not the parents and private equity firms.
Okay. And the UK was not the one that I was trying to argue as much. I was more so like leaning towards like the Netherlands and
Oh, the
Australia.
Netherlands is the same. The Netherlands is the same. I don't know about Australia, but most European countries, as of 1973, have the Families' Rights Act bills that were passed unanimously across Europe. So it's actually something we inherited from the European Union. You can look at Germany, you can look at Italy, it's all the same. It's about a 6-week ban before the mother can give up her child. And they
Let's
also try and place it
see.
with other family members as well.
There's like foreign adoption. Okay, I mean, like, I'm willing to concede that. Sure. I don't necessarily agree that the lack of social, or the prevalence of a social program doesn't also contribute to this a little bit.
We have much higher rates of children in care. We actually have significantly higher rates.
That are in
If we're doing
care. What do you mean by
in
care?
foster care, so looked after by the state rather than adopted. In fact, for every one person in the United States that's in social care, we have 32. I just Googled it as well to check the data.
So
That's crazy.
That's per capita, by the way.
More kids in care.
Per capita.
Yeah, I gotcha.
You guys do have much higher adoption rates, so your care system's actually lower. And some people would argue that's better.
Let's see. The foster system generally handles a higher percentage of. This says that the UK, specifically England, does not have a higher proportion of children in state care than the United States.
What data are they using? Like data? Are they using it directly from the British government? Because I did per 100,000 people. Per 100,000 in the UK, we have 57 children in care.
Per
in
100,000?
America, it is 17 per 100,000. In America, it's 17.
That sounds
That's from the State
off
Department.
to me. Per 100,000, how many children in the U.S. are in government care?
So I got this from the U.S. State Department.
It says 460 per 100,000.
Okay, I don't know about that, but from the U.S. Census 2021, and from the data provided by the U.S. State Department, they're saying 17. So there might be discrepancies via certain states. It might be a discrepancy if they're including adoptions, which some systems do.
Where are
They
you
include
pulling
both.
this from?
The 2021 census.
So 2021 census, and like
children in care.
Children in care. Let's see, census.gov. Like, do you have like a PDF or something?
I can send it over to you.
It says the overall rate of children in foster care in the United States is about 5 per 1,000.
5 per 1,000 is exceedingly high.
Yeah,
is this
that's.
Do they distinguish? Well, maybe this is a difference in how we distinguish it. Because if you're in care for less than 3 years,
if you're taking that out of
100,000,
that's like 500.
Yeah, that would be significantly higher than anywhere else on the planet.
So like, yeah, I mean, like it's not so great here in America.
No, I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm just saying comparatively. But I'm pretty sure the country with the most children in care is nowhere near 500 per 100,000.
Yeah, and and honestly, that was from, I think, this like Christian Alliance for Orphans. So let me see. Yeah, well, let me see if I'm trying to find the actual census, because now I'm interested. If anybody has that, let me know. Here, census number. Yeah, approximately. This one's census.gov. Foster care. I don't want that one. Census number.
Get it back up. 1 second. Let's pull it back up.
Yeah, I was like, if you could just show me where you're getting that, like from the census.
So it was on. In fairness, it was on. It's on Stat SU USA, which pulls all together the census data, gives me the means earnings and everything like that. I'm trying to find it again, but it's being obtuse. 1 second, I'm trying to get that off. So I just wanna get back to it. There you go. This wasn't the one that was initially one. This is one now that's between 2000 and 2023, but there was one specifically that I had up earlier that was from 2021. And it's just, I can't find it again, but it was pulling from this source. No. This is a .org.
Statsusa.org.
Yeah. And it had the 2021 one, and now I can't find it again.
Hmm.
It's like Facebook from 2006. Though.
It does
It did
look
look
like
like
it, but it's
Facebook. That's like when I was on Facebook, actually. Let's see here. I'm trying to see, like, where's the census number for foster care kids?
I think they go off people who are fosterers. So they go off people who are reported as fosterers in
It
like
says
tax information and stuff, like foster parents.
328,947 children are in the U.S. foster care system currently.
Wait, 328,000. Okay. 328,000. How many?
Just round up to 329,000.
Okay. 9,000. What's the population of the United States currently?
About 300 million.
359.
Is that 359?
359.
300.
Okay.
350. You can round down. 359.
Okay. So per capita, that would be 94. So that's significantly low.
Let's see here. Yeah, why are we getting such like crazy number? Like,
Because I think they're
differences?
including I think the Christian unions include the adoption numbers and orphanages, and I'm not including orphanages or adoptions. So in the UK, they're two separate statistics. It might be the case that in the US they combine them,
Yeah.
and it would make sense if it's gone up in recent years as well, because I don't have the most recent UK ones, and it's likely they've gone up. There are fluctuations, especially with economic instability.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that for sure. Like, I think that that's an interesting thing. And like, I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything like at all. Like,
Oh, the UK is ranked consistently in the world as either 3 or 4 for the highest number of children being displaced into local authority care. Like
I love
that's
this.
been quite consistent.
When people disagree but can find common ground with objective truth. No, hey, Benny, I like you, man. I like you. I like that you're a Trekkie. I wanna do a live with you where we just talk Trek because I'm a freaking huge.
I don't know how
Yeah,
many
no
people
offense.
watch that.
You picked Cisco over Janeway. You're dead
Dude,
to me.
it's Picard, Cisco, Janeway.
No.
Okay.
It's Janeway, Picard, original series Kirk,
Yeah.
then Cisco. Cisco
are
was
you
not the
insane?
standout.
Dude,
No.
Are you crazy?
I'm sorry,
All right.
Cisco.
Hey,
Cisco is
wow.
not the
This
standout.
is not the place. But interesting thing, I do want to look into like how many kids are in, like sponsored care and see like what that exactly entails as far as social, like programs. But the way that I was seeing it from like Netherlands and Australia was that like adoption is like almost not a thing anymore. Mainly because like family are pressured a lot of the times to like take care of the child.
It is because we classify it differently. So you guys allow other families to it. The local authorities take care of the children in countries like the Netherlands, and then we have a VAA process, which is a voluntary adoption process. So it is technically adoption, but they list it differently to get the numbers down. So it's done by close friends or families. So I know loads of people who are adopted, but they were adopted by a family member or a friend of the family.
Yeah, I just I wish that there were, and maybe there are studies out there that are comparing multiple societies and whether or not like social programs, how much that would affect something like adoption rates, because I think that that's a very big thing though, is that like, a lot of people have a lot of feelings when it comes to abortion, but they don't seem to care too much once, these kids are born. That is the truth of it all. So
yeah, but
I'm
Guy also wanted me to come up to give you the European perspective on immigration.
No. I appreciate that. Honestly, like I don't want to like be that kind of person that's like stubborn. But I also like don't want to spend a bunch of time like trying like in dead air trying to like research a bunch of stuff. And it's okay, well, we're gonna have to like put a pin in that one, I guess, because we're getting like a lot of different numbers and it's interesting. because yeah, like at one point it was saying that
So,
America had a large amount, which that
mhm.
seems to me more realistic. Uh, because like kids are like aging out of care programs, so they are just like passed between foster home to foster home. A lot
Mhm.
of times experiencing abuse, you know, or like not treated the same
You're
as maybe
preaching to
like
the
the
choir here.
biological. Yeah, and
So the biggest problem we actually have
uh-huh.
in the UK is the reason they wanted to get rid of the adoption numbers, and a lot of countries did, is because if you had a higher prevalency of adoption, it was seen as socially negative in Europe. It's like, oh, your parents aren't good enough; they're not taking care of their child. It was like it was a very early '70s program thing, and so since then, the numbers have actually gotten worse for how many children aren't able to stay with their biological parents, but they avoid putting them in this adoption category because of the
Mm.
same policies that came from the 70s. And so we have underfunded social care that's dealing with an
Thank
exploding
you, Barbie.
population. And I was arguing literally in Parliament in 2017 as the youth representative for children in care that this is a ridiculous program and we need to reopen up
Yeah.
adoption and private adoption as an
Hmm.
option.
That is interesting. Yeah, I don't want to see kids like suffering in any sort of way. Like, even though I am an anti-natalist, once again, like I don't think that these kids, you know, consented to being born. So, to like help those of us that are, you know, here on Earth, uh, like living it seems to me that quality of life should be, you know, like a priority, and instead of like trying to procreate. I don't see like why procreate like is or procreating like is this like huge like sticking point to a lot of people. I get it, like quality of life is somewhat like correlated to procreation, but you know, like if we're just going off like birth rates and not like caring about the quality of life of these people that were like, you know, bringing in, then what the hell is the point? You know, like it seems to me that that would only increase, you know, like suffering in some sort of way, like more than it already is.
Benny, we're gonna cure you of that nihilism, bro. You're already on the right path, bro. I'm serious. You're already on the right path. You're
I'm not
gonna you're
sure.
gonna
Like I even think like I love evolution and stuff, but I think like in order for evolution to be a thing, like it takes suffering. It's just a brute fact.
Hey, dude,
dude. They
I'm a
say life is
Dostoevsky
suffering.
fan, so I'm not completely against you. But I'm limited
Schopenhauer.
on time because my boyfriend's coming over, and
Ooh,
I do want to.
well, tell
Yeah,
him
I do want to
hi.
spend. I
My
will. I
boyfriend's at the
disagree.
gym right now.
Mine's driving over to spend some time with his
I'm the
family.
only one who doesn't have a boyfriend. What the fuck?
You have a girlfriend,
Right,
don't
get
you?
one.
I got multiple girlfriends. You know this. Come on
You hoe. You hoe. But I do actually disagree with there's no agenda in the LGBTQ, but we can cover that another time. I think that's a patently absurd statement, even if
A
you're from
lot of
the
it's
LGBT.
so I think that there is no like unified you know group that is the LGBTQ. But yeah. Go on, go to your boyfriend.
So no. I need to address the reason I initially was asked to come up, and that is immigration in the UK. And I'm
Oh,
also
okay,
an
yeah.
immigrant. I'm also an immigrant cross Europe. So my family immigrated to Europe before I was born, and then immigrated internally in Europe after
Mm-hmm.
I was born.
Is there
So
would you say it's an epidemic?
yeah, oh no, way worse than an epidemic. It is culturally destroying the UK to the point when we've now got experts speaking in the UN at the likelihood of civil war in both the UK, France, Ireland, and Spain.
I understand
Not even a
like
question.
that people can be hyperbolic, but like
No, these are experts from King's College
is
London.
the UK identity, I
That's my alma
guess,
mater, by the way, King's College.
is the UK identity like being destroyed? I failed to see how
Yes.
I could see it evolving, you know, that part of, you know, like non-isolationism uh
It's
would
not that the UK is isolationist, and it's not that Europe is isolationist. Immigration the idea of multiculturalism is only possible with cultures that agree. It's a bit like pacifism. You can be a pacifist so long as nobody wants to punch you in the face. Until the point somebody wants to punch you in the face, you kind of have to take
I agree.
even
like,
the beating.
Yeah, you would have to have, like cultures that aren't like actively like, you existing is, like the bane of my culture's existence or something like that. But
or even importing cultures that are conflicting with each other. So a lot of people like to talk about Islam coming in and all that. But a more interesting dynamic is having both Pakistanis and Indians in the country, especially when they're actively at war with each other. Because we had things in like Stratford and Manchester where there was open ethnic conflicts in the streets of the United Kingdom over a war that was going on thousands of miles away, where people were being stabbed and murdered. That's a ridiculous proposition.
I think that's a valid thing to be concerned about. I know that, like, for instance, in the 70s with Iran, we had a lot of Iranian like students in the US that were protesting back then. Honestly, I would have supported that, to be completely honest. But like two people fighting against each other in a different country. I think that, I'm more of like a civil kind of person that would say, like, a civil discussion would be better than, violence. So it would be more about, like, it's not like them clashing is the bad part. It's them clashing and like how they're clashing.
So it's not just, this is an interesting thing that a lot of people maybe misunderstand about the modern world. And it is, I would say it's because of globalist demons that have tried to, no, I'm sorry, I think it's absolutely perpetually absurd to quote the idea that we aren't individual cultures with individual values. And I think the idea of globalism is inherently problematic because by nature, we can coexist.
He says, oh, hold on. He says on a country application, but go on.
Okay. No, I get the point. But my culture, I would say, right now,
like, I would have no idea of any of the like good things that you're saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I am cutting you off. But I would have none of these ideas if we didn't have some sort of globalism, right?
Sure. I would say that that's part of the problem because globalism tends to focus on the positives and where it succeeds, and it kind of tries to use the American model, which I think is kind of unfair. Because America, I would say, is the first great example of multiculturalism coexisting and forming a nation state. There was definitely tensions and there was definitely problems, racism, the treatment of Native Americans. But overall, America was always semi-multicultural. You had the Danish, you had the Dutch, you had the Hispanics, you had the Irish, you had the Latins. You had different Christian denominations and groups, Jewish groups.
It wasn't easy, I don't think.
No.
Like for those that were first coming in, in Omaha, for instance, because I'm in Nebraska. The Greeks were like there were riots where people were unalived, burned, lynched. It was
so an average Tuesday
in Omaha, yeah, I guess. Jesus, but
hey,
no,
we like to party. There's a reason we smash our plates.
But yeah, it was just like crazy, like how they were referred to, and how like it's very similar to how African Americans were also treated. It was a lot of they're taking our jobs, they're taking away our culture, seeing it still with like immigration stuff in America, where again they're taking our jobs, they're trying to replace us. There's like this culture that's at risk. But really, I don't see that. If anything, I think that integration, like in blending in, is happening for more than anything.
Just on it.
But hey, you go handle that.
I don't need to run very quickly. He can manage 2 seconds.
Okay.
Because I think you were making an interesting point. I would say
if he likes us more than he likes his boyfriend, pass it on.
He can't hear you right now, but I think he'd disagree. I think he knows I love him very much.
I tease.
I think that I'm a great example of somebody who came in young enough to integrate because my mother and my father did struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that we didn't go into, because my family's Jewish, we didn't immediately go into a Jewish community in Golders Green, or
Mm.
we were pretty much. My dad moved over for work. We were pretty much integrating immediately with the British populace
And that would have been rough.
at the first. It was, I can imagine it was, especially from how my dad describes it, but at the point of entry. So the challenges were there, but there was no opportunity to slide back into the old cultural background and to maintain that because you kind of had to integrate with people. It's a bit easier now with social media to ignore that, but we're dealing with what we're dealing with. The problem with how immigration has become in Europe now, and this isn't just, a lot of people want to paint it on just Muslims. Actually, we had it initially with the Polish and with the Armenians. So in Europe, it really became Polish and Armenians. You went and had zones that were filled with one particular ethnic group, and it wasn't diversifying, and it was keeping its own subculture. And that's really where the tensions build, because integration is possible. You can have Muslims in
I
Britain
guess,
who have British values.
and nothing should be at extremes, right? I'm a very big proponent of, like moderation is key, right? Like everything in moderation. Nothing like too much of a good thing is not necessarily good, right? I think that to have even like parts of cities that are strictly like one culture and nothing else is gonna end up like negatively affecting. I think that there should be a little bit of intermingling that goes on. It doesn't necessarily have to be like full on intermingling, but we need like, you see, there was a lot of stuff like redlining that went on that separated, like the puritanical Americans from necessarily the
That's
like
not what
Irish
redlining
Americans.
was.
I know
That wasn't what.
but like redlining as far as like the people of color too.
No, it did. It actually disproportionately didn't affect that. In fact, if you look at the mortgage rates in the 1960s, well, 1962 to 1968, it actually disproportionately was better for Black people for mortgage rates. It was based on certain areas, and actually, the U.S. government, on many opportunities around this, went around and gave way more loans. Now, there was other factors included in that.
Yeah, but like
there
the
were other
approving of the
discriminatory
loans
factors.
and like whether
No,
or
the
not,
improvement was higher than any other time for Black people.
then why is it that they're like again, I'm going to bring up Omaha because it's a very redlined city, that the like people of color, the Black Omaha like citizens are mainly focused in the north part of Omaha. There was only like the only mortgages they could get was in that neighborhood. It used to be a multicultural neighborhood. It was actually like for instance like 20th Street or something like that. It was Italian. There were Polish people. Now it is like strictly like Black people. And in fact, after a while, there's a main like thoroughfare. It's called Dodge Street. There was one street that used to go up into North Omaha, but they actually made it harder to go into North Omaha. So yeah, like redlining is a thing. So I don't know.
Redlining ended in '68. Okay, so redlining as a policy was banned by the United States government.
I believe that.
So if you look, and this is actually something that you probably should look into as well. If you look at census data around that time, it probably was still multicultural. It actually came later, and it was actually to do with the market. So after redlining, and this is what really happened, after redlining, it created this idea in the market of low economy zones, high economy zones, which is then when you got the discrimination based on renters. And even though you were meant to be past all the discriminations on Black people for where they could rent, where they could buy, stuff like that, companies and mostly rentals started zoning people in. So that wasn't really the redlining policy. It was actually the private equity firms after that did that. HOAs did that a lot. Housing association or housing. What are they called? HOAs? They're called HOAs, aren't they?
Yeah, HOAs.
They did that a lot. If you look at the earlier HOAs, they did it a lot. I looked into this a lot, and one of my friends, she on here. She's a black activist. She hates the redlining argument because whenever anybody looks at the data, they see that that's not what's happened. But then
the
they miss all
data
the stuff
doesn't
that happened
reflect
later.
the reality all the time, though, right? Like, so like redlining may not have been like legal, but it was still like, you know, it may not have been on paper, but it was still happening in certain ways. Like, for instance, like I was saying, like Dodge Street was actually closed off from the way to go from the south part, or like the central part downtown of Omaha. It was closed off with they put up it's like a Hilton DoubleTree. They closed off the one like street that was connecting them from like the north part. So they were making it harder for people in that neighborhood to like come down south, like into downtown, job prospects. They, you know, like your commute is affected. There's so many things that are just like inherently in there that aren't necessarily put down on paper, that like unless you see it for what it is, like it's not necessarily gonna like pan out in just data alone.
That was also, I think a lot of people forget the reason that a lot of that was done. It wasn't, a lot of people will assume that because it's now majority black in certain areas, they also forget the other areas. Latino areas, I'd say, were actually way more affected, especially in the South. Look at like Texas, hyper concentrated. And I would say that if because this is something I look at a lot, 'cause I'm weird. I like land law. I do law as a degree. If you looked at it, what the actual sort of fundamental push was, it was to create these not so distinguished ghettoized societies. And the reason that it was ideal to do this was actually to do with housing costs. So it may sound odd to you, but if you have a very poor, disaffluent area,
You can. Sorry.
If you have a very poor, disaffluent area, let's say 40 minutes from you, and it's all contained to one area, you can hike your prices up in the nicer area. In contrast, it actually doesn't affect it. But a lot of people think, oh, it's going to keep it low. It actually gives the opportunity for privates to raise their prices, see how bad it is over there. It's kind of like a visual idea. And this was also done in other countries like the UK, like France, and it's called the broken glass policy. And it's the idea that you keep your rent low by making an area that is deemed to be poor look poorer and be poorer. So there was a lot of incentive to do that. And some of this was also done on the citizen level because they didn't want their rents to go up the 2008 financial crash.
Yeah, and like the opposite. I've seen the opposite with gentrification.
Yep.
I mean, like they make poorer areas look richer, and then they raise the rent, and then the people that were living in those neighborhoods are then forced deeper, either inner or outer. They're forced out.
It's all a market trend. It's all a housing market trend. It's all barbaric. But 90% of the agenda is not, I would say now, 90% of the agenda is not on racial lines. It's just on money lines. And
nowadays,
like it or not,
I would probably agree with that. That it's not necessarily on racial lines.
The
but
only
I think,
color that matters today is green.
Well, yeah. I mean, but I think that it's silly to to discount the like past and like the effects of the past, you know, because I think that there's still very
as long
much.
as we attribute it to its actual effect, because the myth of redlining being the problem actually allows it to. But it is
it's
a myth
still
because
happening.
It's
literally it's still happening. No.
What
Listen,
do you think redlining is?
Redlining is the process of basically secluding certain people groups, and in this case, by racial
Incorrect
lines. Yes, it is.
No, it's
that's what redlining was.
No,
redlining was keeping black people out of white areas. Yes, it was.
No, dude.
Yes,
it
was.
Dude,
because what would happen?
Calm down. We were having a peaceful conversation, and you just come in.
I'm
really
having
hot.
a peaceful conversation, but the thing is you are factually incorrect here.
No, I'm not factually incorrect, and this is where I'll explain why. If you actually look at the redlining policies, who do you think divvied out redlining policies? Where do you think that was?
It was
what?
It was the lending.
Who do you think?
It was
the banks.
Yeah, the banks.
It was the banks. The banks divvied out these policies, so it wasn't to do with governmental organizations.
I think there's a colloquial term and a like a more like professional like lending term that we're like running into a little bit of an issue with, because I would say that redlining is still like it's kind of given like a broader definition nowadays, to where it is like still like an isolationism, right? Like to isolate certain
It's banks taking your
unfavorables.
house. It's banks looking at not your unfavorables. It's entirely to do with
No, I
housing
mean,
areas and
but
and,
that's
and
part
debt.
of like I said, you know, like putting up the double tree and closing off the thoroughfare from the like downtown to the northern part of Omaha is a specific like type of redlining that, you know, maybe it needs a different term.
Yeah, that once again, it's not a part of the redlining policy. I think it caught on.
Right,
There was an article. There was an article
talking-
written in the 90s.
I think
about
what
it.
we're talking about when it comes to redlining is more so the actual like separation of, you know, certain cultures or ethnicities.
And it's still
Yeah.
happening today.
But when you actually look into the this is where I don't like people using that term, because
So
when
maybe
you
we need
actually
a
look
different
into-
term.
Yeah, I agree. If we have a different term, that'd be better. When you use the redlining term, and I've done this with people a lot. If you actually Google in what the redlining policies were, they have nothing to do with race. If you look at the period, like I said, more black people were afforded loans for housing acquisition in that period of time than any other. Okay, so it was the highest rise for black ownership since the early 20s, since the 1920s.
Yeah,
so it was a
but,
significant
like-
increase. So when you just look at it like that, people go, okay, so redlining doesn't make sense. When you look at the policies that came later, which weren't to do with loan acquisition,
There's context that you're like leaving out though. So like, for instance,
Yeah.
like the Second World War, a lot of like, you know, African Americans were, you know, allowed to participate in that war, and they got, you know, paid for it. They came back from the war with money and like job prospects, and then like that job prospect like culture like finally hit them to where they had not experienced it on like a larger scale, to where they didn't have like a necessarily like a taste of like what it was like to have, you know, like a white collar job. Their jobs were mostly, you know, like blue collar before the war. Like this is a very like recognized thing, and that is where also you see a lot of like split from like Italians, the Polish, like the other like white like cultures that are immigrants that were in, you know, like cities that were also like living with like the black like neighborhood. Like they were like intermingled, but then like after the war came in, like black people were given a lot more opportunity, and then it was, you know, kind of like, oh shit, my job's on like the fence now, because these people are like going to be taking my job, and you know, it turns into that same old kind of argument. Now
So
that caused the immigrants, at least in Omaha, to move out of these neighborhoods that were once like a multicultural neighborhood, and it left, you know, like only one like group of people.
So this is coming from Cornell Law School. It says, redlining can be defined as a discriminatory practice that consisted of the systematic denial of services such as mortgages, insurance loans, and other financial services to residents of certain areas based on their race or ethnicity. Do you disagree with that?
yeah, I disagree with that,
That's
because I'm looking at
That's
them
a
right now.
revisionist
That's a
definition.
revisionist description. Because
That's
it
a
wasn't based on that.
revisionist description.
Yeah, it wasn't based on so the
Except for
policies.
that's exactly what was happening, and that's still happening today.
dude, go and look at the actual. Then this is where this really gets complicated for people who hear the talking point and don't have the critical thinking skills to go and actually look at it. The facts are that didn't happen. Those policies weren't happening with banks. Banks were becoming
Okay, that's
more
fine.
accepting.
Let's look up the policies then.
Banks were becoming more accepting of black loans, which if you look at the 50s comparatively.
Policies. Yeah, this started in the 30s, the 20s and 30s. You know that, right?
Yeah, like comparing the like 20s,
Government
30s,
ownership
and
home programs.
20s and 30s,
That's what it's referring
and,
in this.
like post and pre World War are like two very separate like times when it comes to like the black experience in America. Which like I feel so fucking weird to say that like as like a white guy, you know, but
Right.
just like watching and talking to a lot of people in Omaha, and like watching like documentaries and stuff that are, you know, that we were shown like growing up. This was
Yeah.
a very true thing.
You're over here talking about the 50s and 60s whenever we already had like the civil rights laws that are being enacted and stuff like that. You're not looking back at whenever this thing's
The
first
20s
started
and
coming out.
30s, the 20s and 30s was not when redlining came out. They once again
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't. This is once again a illusion of retroactively going back and applying a term to something that was different. So when they're talking about the 1920s and the 1930s, what they're actually talking about is construction districts. So if you look at what they're referring
Do you
to
have
in
a
the 19
source? Do you have a source I can look at right now? Because I've got my tablet right here. I can look it up.
right this second, no.
Okay,
What I've
so
read in,
I have
excuse me,
sources that tell me
just stop
otherwise.
interrupting.
Well, no, but the
Okay.
problem is that
No,
you're
okay,
giving me
okay, so
this
you're gonna-
idea here that I can't even look up if you don't have anything for
Wait,
me
you
to look up.
you could just type it in and look at the
I
Building
typed in
Society practice.
redlining policies, and
Okay.
it's telling me the same thing.
So-
I've
so-
typed
my
in what
goodness.
is redlining.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
So
goodness.
give me something to look up. I'm fine with whatever you want, however
It's
you
very
want to word it.
difficult. It's very difficult to try and give you something to look up when you interrupt me in the middle of my sentence when I'm trying to give you that very thing.
Okay.
So you're
What am I
coming in
looking
it from a very emotional aspect. Now put that aside.
I'm not
I want you
emotional
to I want
about
you
this.
to I
I'm just
want you to
asking for
point
sources.
I want you to go because in this one
Mhm.
it talks specifically about government. So if you go to your own source that you initially quoted, it points at U.S. government home ownership programs. Now the U.S. Census dates back to 1892. You can go to those census data, which also includes home ownership, which is done by social government programs, and you can look at the percentage in which Black people were afforded it as a per capita ratio to white people. In fact, the distinguishment is minimal.
So what am I looking up?
You can go to the
In the
U.S. government home
1890s?
ownership program 1920 to 1930.
Yeah, like this is where I'm saying like the data still is not taking into like the after effects of slavery, like for instance.
I agree. And that is more of an influence on this. And I think a lot of people also don't want to talk about the fact that post segregation, there was the idea of self-segregation that occurred in the 70s and the 80s, which actually happened a lot with the Italian community and the Chinese community more than any other demographic, but did still disproportionately affect other minorities.
So you said look up the U.S. Census data from the 20s and 30s?
Specifically in regards to the U.S. governmental home ownership program.
U.S. Census
Like
data
HDR 1-2.
of home ownership.
This was done retroactively during the financial crash.
All right, U.S. Census data of home ownership in the 20s and 30s. Is that what I'm looking at?
Specifically look for 1922 because that's when the majority of the programs come.
Okay, 1922. From 19...
Might be worth going on the State Department for this, for individual states if you want to look at your own state.
So,
I would agree. I would
you're
agree.
saying
Southern
that
states
the
had more
data
discriminatory policies.
the data claims that Black people were owning just as many, like per capita, Black people
Per
in
capita,
America.
there was just as many approved.
There were, well, the like higher interest rates and the mortgage, like that was a ban that was put in 1968. So you're saying that even in the 30s, though, like it was still.
So it was the end of the 30s where you got significantly higher interest rates. I think there were still higher interest rates, and I think the proportion in which they were higher was not as extreme. But don't forget, this is also slightly influenced by the economy. So the US is trying to get its economy back up. At this point, it really didn't matter who was buying homes, just that people were buying homes and engaging in the economy.
Oh, yeah.
So they were more incentivized not to.
Post-depression, yeah. I get what you're saying.
And what is this supposed to be proving exactly?
The redlining policies that a lot of people are characterizing here don't actually happen in the way they're saying. So it's not the banking loaning policies. It's actually, so after you get the loan to buy the place, a lot of people think, oh, that's all said and done. What really was the problem was the sellers. Especially in the 1920s. If you wanted to sell your home, even if somebody got approved for a loan, you'd still have the right to refuse. And a lot of people, especially in places like Texas, more so in places like Idaho, were absolutely refusing to sell on any capacity to black people. Even new development projects that were private, HOAs that were forming, that was what the real quote-unquote redlining was. It wasn't the actual bank policies that were the biggest shutout.
Yeah, it was the
it was the individual sellers.
Also the residential security maps, right? That the homeowners loan corporation was like writing out. Like that was literally like where the like red lines were like being put up because they were saying like these are it was the homeowners loan corporation.
No, the homeowners associations was the ones that initially did the RAPs. No, so that came later. If you look in the 1930s, the ones that were doing this were individual homeowning associations that were quite new at this point, and they were drawing out these maps, and actually congressional maps were being used as well. So congressional maps were being used not on demographic data, but on income data. So poorer areas were discriminated against significantly more. That's why you got 83% of Irish in the 1930s, 1940s, not being able to get any sort of loan. And also prejudice against Irish money.
Let's see here. I'm seeing only HOLC. I'm not seeing like HOAs.
It might have gone by a different term. I can try and find it. There's a great book on this called The Truth Behind Redlining. I think it's by Georgia Casara. She is I believe she's Mexican-American. So she's Mexican African American. So I think her mother's Mexican and her father's African American. She wrote a whole book on this. She went to Harvard, and it was because a lot of people are still seeing the effects of quote unquote redlining now, but they think they're addressing the problem when in actuality, it's letting all these other independent things just sort of skew off. Like there's an ability today, although it's not disclosed, that somebody can just reject at any point to sell to an individual. And that could still be potentially on racial lines. That could still be happening right now in private sales. Even if they get the loans, even if they get everything else, that could still be happening. And that's never really been addressed in recourse. There's a lot of black owners who are calling for an idea of a blind sell, where if the person has the money, you don't see their race, you don't have their name.
Right. Well, so I think I get where your like argument is coming from. You're saying like that the problem is more so the discrimination, like that people hold, and less so the bureaucracy of it all. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
This would not be there are definitely loads of political and legislative examples of discrimination. This, I would say, is at the lowest end of being connected because it's an economically driven one.
I could see like your argument now a little bit better, and like I think that this like use of the word like term redlining is kind of where the conflict is arising, because it may not necessarily be like, because I guess in that book like you're talking about they're saying that it wasn't just certain neighborhoods that were redlined out. I'd have to look into this a little bit more. I just am not somebody that just like takes things, in blind faith. But it's an interesting.
If you look
point.
at the actual maps and the demographics, I think it's 82% of the most affected redline maps were white owned entirely.
I just wonder though, why do cities, seem to have these separations then?
A lot of it now, whether we like to, and I'll say this as a Jewish person, I don't want to live, if I want to be openly Jewish, I want to live in a Jewish community. No offense. For safety, especially now. And I can understand, and there's a lot of black people who, when we have these conversations, they say the same thing. They don't want to be discriminated against, and they sort of relating to the other conversation we were having, it is this idea of sort of being separate and not being imposed upon. Because a lot of this is something to take into consideration. There are still a lot of black people in America who, when moving to white neighbors, report disproportionate amounts of discrimination and feelings of unsafety. And so it makes sense that they would want to stay, even now, in majority black areas for safety. And that needs to be addressed, that recourse. It's the same with the Jewish community.
I don't know if it's like the Jewish experience and the black experience aren't necessarily the same type of experience, just because, It's not
No,
necessarily
I'm not saying they're
safe to be
completely.
like in a like crime ridden neighborhood, like that's based off of poverty,
Oh, I think that's a very. I think a lot of people think New York and Harlem and like Hell's Kitchen for that. There are a lot of black neighborhoods that are incredibly safer than white neighborhoods in
Oh
America.
yeah, like I
Think
agree.
Colorado.
Like that's why I said it's more about
Mm.
like lack of resources and stuff. Like if opportunity, it would be interesting, like if we ever got to a point to where we could safely say, like objectively that the past is no longer affecting the future. That like
Oh,
things
it
have been
is.
moved on. Yeah, I know,
But
but like just like a
beyond
hypothetical.
Mm.
safety, beyond safety, there's also like, cultural norms and comfort. Like, hey, your neighbor speaks the same language, and not necessarily the same languages in terms of opposed to English, but celebrate the same
Dialect.
holidays. No, it's not even dialect. I'm saying like you can have slang, you can have the same, cuisine that you share, the same kind of holidays that you'll celebrate, the same things, and that's just natural. There's this element of sociology of just wanting to be part of your community, celebrate the same holidays, celebrate the same religion, the same practice, same traditions. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? There's cultures are
I
deep rooted.
get what you
So
I get what you're
yeah,
saying. I just I think there's a middle ground, right? Like I think that there is a way to have multiculturalism without like radicalism, or like complete isolationism. And maybe it's like small steps, baby
Well,
steps, or
that's why we
something
have
like that.
to. That's why, and I've been a biggest advocate for this for the longest time. That's why we have to stop with the ideology of trying to simplify everything down. And I think using terms like redlining inappropriately as they're used does that very thing because we never actually address the complexity of it. When people talk about redlining, and I know what they're on about, they're addressing 80 or so different
Right.
policies that contradict and conflict with each other, but people are only focusing on one side of it because it's the biggest proportion of that
I would
statement.
also agree. Like that's a big thing when it comes to like gender and like trans, like
Hmm.
the trans argument and everything. Like like when somebody asks the question like what is a woman and stuff, there's so many things that go into like gender and how that's like looked at depending on different cultures, different pasts and everything. So it is a lot of nuance. And I
Which
think
is why
that
when
it's
with which is
another
actually
interesting
why.
aspect of it, though. Like even the gay community tends to congregate in certain areas. I live in South Florida. I live in
Mhm.
Fort Lauderdale. Wilton Manors is the gay capital of the world today, and that's like,
well, that's just because
just down.
they're lazy and they just want to be able to get some real quick.
Oh,
No, no,
don't you
no, no, no,
dare!
no.
No,
But
no, no.
hold
So,
on.
so I'll give you a
All
historical
right.
example. There's a city
Yeah.
in the UK called Brighton, and I really want you to look at the history of Brighton for a second, if you get the chance. And Canal Street in Manchester. So these places have become gay only places because of their safety, and therefore they became synonymous with living safely. So during the 1880s, all the way through to the 1960s, Brighton's police and the local council would not report a gay man to the authorities. They would not detain them in significant proportions. Yeah, there
Hmm.
was still homophobia, but gay businesses were very openly espoused, and therefore it became pseudo havens. Same with Canal Street. There was a lot of gay cafes that now Canal Street is renowned as one of the safest places in the world to be gay. Just even in the UK, the statistics of being safe in Canal Street or Brighton are higher than the average British town. So no,
Hmm.
what Guy's saying is completely correct. We do congregate together for safety, even now. And this brings me back to the multiculturalism part of it. I, as a gay man, don't like the idea of inviting 90% of the world in that still thinks I should be killed. And that is the case. 90% of the world's population, still to a very large degree, disagrees with homosexuality.
You know what's crazy though? In Wilton Manor specifically, there's an entire conversation about gentrification because so many gay people congregate there. It's expanding, and as it's expanding, gay people are dual income, very well-to-do persons, in couples. So there's an element of, and it's not necessarily black people, but impoverished communities that are adjacent to Willam Manors that are starting to have gentrification happening there, and people buying up the adjacent neighborhoods
Oh
because
yeah,
hey,
yeah. Blame it on the gays, guys.
Yeah,
Homophobe.
I mean, listen,
No,
you guys make
I
too much
think
money. You're
think
almost
you're
as bad as
not
the Jews.
off necessarily.
Well, I'm gay and Jewish. I'm screwed.
Oh, the double whammy.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a misunderstanding there when it came to that term redlining. And I agree that there is nuance, and I think that Hammy would also probably agree that what we're seeing and like experiencing, especially like Hammy, if you're down in Texas, it's probably even worse. But like to attribute it maybe like necessarily just to like the banking system is a little bit of a folly, because I think it is a little bit more than the banking system. But
Most of
it's
it,
a good term,
once again,
though.
if you look,
damn it. Maybe the banking part of it should be changed.
This is the problem with good terms, and this is the problem with figureheads. Now, I'm one of the big proponents that if you want a successful ideology, never put a man above another. And the reason that I'm a big proponent of this is what I'm seeing going on now worries the fuck out of me. So there was a series that I stumbled across, and it's a part of this strange movement that's going on in both the United States and Germany, interestingly enough, called Black Fatigue, which I think is a ridiculous statement. But this whole attack was bringing up people like Rosa Parks, spelling out everything she did wrong in her life, people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. And I started to come to this position that what I think they did was very successful and very good and ultimately produced the best benefit. Tying any individual movement to a single person allows the opportunity for that person's personal character to be attacked, and thus the whole movement. And so I'm very much trying to get away from singling any piece of protective ideology on an individual group, like the black community, like the gay community, to any one person, because as people, we do shit wrong. Even a great man does bad things wrong. And I don't want there to be an opportunity in the future for people who generally want to cause harm to the black community or to the gay community to be able to look at these individuals and go, you hold them in high esteem, and they did this, and this wrong, and like, therefore your whole thing's wrong.
The Margaret Sanger abortion, Planned Parenthood, like black genocide, like weird argument comes to mind with that one, because they'll attribute like Planned Parenthood simply to Margaret Sanger, and it's just like, oh shit, sorry, Key Lime. Yeah, I'll allow you.
Yeah, it's like that. Like Margaret Sanger was a piece of shit human being, right? But that doesn't mean Planned Parenthood itself was a bad organization,
right? And
for providing such a good service.
Yeah, and I think that narrowing it down, like to like just the people that may have started the movement or organization or something, it can be detrimental to like the movement itself. I mean, like J.K. Rowling, for instance.
We're gonna really disagree here. I'm very sorry. We're gonna really disagree.
No, I'm saying the Potterheads are done a disservice because J.K. Rowling went off on her own tangents and stuff. She kind of affected the whole Potterverse.
This is the thing that I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to call this out. J.K. Rowling is a fantastic human being who has done absolutely immeasurable good. Now, she disagrees on one political situation, which she doesn't even really disagree on. She still never said that she's against trans.
I've seen her actively like misgender people and dead name them, and I think that that's a horrid thing to do.
Sure. I've also seen after and before that, especially before that, people threaten her child and send horrendous stuff to her home. I think her reaction is just as much a reaction to the abuse she suffered by sycophantic little apologetic.
But why would you abuse?
Psychopaths.
I like, again, now she's like attributing this violence and stuff necessarily to like the trans community. It's not like the trans community is getting together and saying like, yeah, we need to go threaten J.K. Rowling.
She's never called for violence on the trans community ever.
So
I'm not saying she did.
But they call to
I've
active
followed
violence on her
closely
life.
for a while.
Well, yeah, we don't have
I
to get
followed
into that.
closely for a while.
Mhm.
Whenever it came to J.K. Rowling, because I've been a Potter
Amen,
fan
Wim.
since I was 11, right? And so I followed it very closely, and I watched her go from a kind of neutral stance of how where she's like, I just don't think that we should have trans people in the cis bathrooms type of deal, to then this whole entire like propagating up harmful organizations who are actually out there trying to cause harm to the trans community.
Do you think she'd
because
ever
it-
been
like,
drawn?
Wait. I
One
have
second.
a
Do we,
question.
guy? Just
Give me a
before
minute to
I
answer.
really want to hammer down. I really want to hammer down on this. Do you
I
think
mean, you have
J.K.
all the
Rowling?
time. You saucy
I'll
man.
stop.
Go
I'll
ahead.
stop after this. Do you think J.K. Rowling would have ever gone down that route if people didn't threaten her children over what was quite reasonably a statement that was reasonable for the United Kingdom? And I'm sorry, it is reasonable for the United Kingdom. We have gendered bathrooms for a reason. Gendered bathrooms have been a part of the United Kingdom and a part of the United Kingdom's psychology for a very long time. We've also had a very long history of cross-dressing in this country, where it's been socially acceptable at times and unsocially acceptable at times. But we've never really based our bathrooms on gender. We based it on sex. We're a very literal society.
It's been always based on gender because there have been
Shouldn't have brought up J.K. Rowling.
trans people who have been using the bathrooms they've identified way before this became like in the public eye issue.
Yeah, in
right?
America, it was not an issue until like the bathroom bill got brought up, and then it seemed to me like it was much more that the public eye got focused on it, and that's when it got blown up into this like kind of boogeyman about like child abuse and things like that. I think having an opinion on things is fine, but like to I don't know, like to reattribute like trauma and put it onto a group of people that didn't necessarily put that trauma on you.
I think that's a bit ahistorical with the UK. People have had an issue with trans people going in the bathroom since the 40s in the UK.
So,
and what about the sports?
The sports is a different conversation.
But one second, I was going to ask this general question. Can someone have a position regarding, let's say, trans people in bathrooms or trans people in sports and not be considered a transphobe?
No.
Because that's, I think, what happened with J.K. Rowling. I think she had an opinion, and then she was accosted, harassed, and basically
a child was threatened physically.
Exactly, digging her heels in the ground, where then she would maybe, and it's not suggesting that you're pushed to becoming a bigot, but there's an element of creating or finding the in-group
it was one thing
was welcoming towards you. Yeah.
So it was one thing when she had an opinion, right? She had this opinion. And if that was all it was, if she just said, hey, I don't think that, I don't think that trans women are women type of deal. And like, yeah, she's still going to get a lot of flack for it. There are going to be a lot of people who will call her a transphobe for that. But one of the biggest things is that, right, like there's this point before she went off on the deep end about this and started really like almost singularly focusing on it, where she was still considered by a lot of fans as moderate on this topic, when she was actively like reposting and being buddy with people who were actively harming the trans community. And whenever you do that, it's one of those things where it's like, if you sit down at a table with two neo-Nazis, that table is now three neo-Nazis.
No. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. No, like, I'm not going to do that. As a Jewish person, I'm not going to have that's the kind of shit that really causes problems, because not everybody is a Schnazi, and the comparisons between Schnazis.
I'm not saying that she was a
but it's the
Schnazi,
language. It's the language. Yeah. And I've seen her get called a Schnazi repeatedly, and that's what led to her getting violently threatened. And this was before she went off the deep end.
But that's the thing, is that's an actual phrase. Like, will it make you feel
it
better?
Shouldn't be.
Like, it's a phrase because
but it really
whenever
minimizes. It really minimizes and sanitizes what the Yazis did, which is really horrible for a lot of the people who suffered under the torture
What
of the
Yazis did to
Yazis.
trans people was so in a far way more extreme than anything
It's
J.K.
so
Rowling has ever called
unfair.
for.
It is so unfair and hurtful to the victims of Yazis for you to sanitize what they did to score a political point here. It is so unfair and disrespectful
Hey, what
to
if we heard
to
from
the
a
victims
trans
of
woman?
Yazis. Look, I don't care who you heard it from. Us as Jews and the Romani and the Gypsies, whoever else were victims of the
And
Yazis.
trans people who were
You have
as
to
well.
listen to us because this has been falling on deaf ears. And it amazes me amongst the left side of the political spectrum how deaf you can go to this when we're talking about real oppression. You cannot rebrand, repackage, and resell what the Yazis did to prove a point. You are reshaping how people understand history. You're reshaping how people understand history. And the end result of that is people going, why are Jews crying about the H cost? It didn't even happen, or it wasn't that bad. And there's a whole constellation, right, of consequences of you doing that. So all we're asking you is please do not sanitize, don't repurpose the horrors that the Yazis brought on the world to try to prove your point, because you're whitewashing it and you're rewriting history in the process.
Is this aimed at me?
Yeah, I'm not understanding where this is like coming.
You're
like
calling
Hammy was
like what J.K.
Hold on,
Rowling
hold
the
on,
Yazis.
hold on.
Do this.
Pause, because I wasn't done talking. Hammy had said that she was like talking, she was working with or like speaking with and talking to self-claimed neo-Nazis. It wasn't that he was calling her a Nazi.
He was giving.
I had said that she
can I clarify for people? Because I think
hold on. I would like to clarify what it was that I had said. Right?
Yeah. Okay, go on.
So I had said that she was actively talking and agreeing with and being buddy with people who were actively harming the trans community. And what I said was that it's like the phrase goes where whenever there's two people who are neo-Nazis at a table and you sit down with them to to talk to them, that table has now have three neo-Nazis. That's not comparing. That's not saying that J.K. Rowling is a neo-Nazi.
Also, neo-Nazis are very different from the Nazis of the 30s and 40s.
Hold on, though.
That's not what Keelam said. Can I just clarify? Because what Keelam was trying to say was that you are whitewashing what it means to be a Yahtzee or a neo-Nazi, meaning that if J.K. Rowling made buddies with some people who have said offensive things towards trans people, none of these people, even the most heinous anti-transphobe that's currently alive, did anything remotely close to trans people as what the Nazis did to a bunch of people. And therefore, hold on, let me just land my plane. And therefore, drawing that comparison is offensive for her. And you can understand that point, because this is a silly thing. Because like any harm that was done to the trans community in the last 10 years with regards to rhetoric, it doesn't even belong in the same conversation as to anything the Nazis have ever done.
Again, though, this is going off of a thing that's saying that I'm comparing the two. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm saying that this here is like, if she is being buddy with, and she is reposting, and she has been rubbing shoulders with people who do harm to the trans community, then giving her the label transphobe is kind of warranted at that point.
That's fair. Yahtzee is not.
He was just saying that it was an old saying. It's an old saying of if three people or if two Nazis are sitting at a table and another person sitting at the table with them talking to them, that you have now three Nazis.
Okay, for purposes of moving forward, I will accept that, but I will say when he first said it, it did not sound like that. And we're just asking you to be conscious about how and when you use that word, because in today's world, it is abused to the point where it's meaningless.
I want to just draw it back, because I know Living wants to speak because they're trans. But there's one thing I want to say about this whole transphobe, homophobe, Islamophobe, anti-Semite. The idea of labeling people, of boiling and distilling their political opinions down to single terms that demonize, even if they're accurate, does nothing for changing their minds and has become pretty useless. It doesn't do anything. And we keep on trying to hypermoralize individuals based on political opinions, based on ideals, and they lose meaning. Nazi used to be a term that you would throw at somebody.
You're missing something
when
here,
it was.
though.
Excuse me. Stop
also
interrupting
dealt with
me.
gay people and trans people. Trans people and gay people have been.
I literally said that, but you
oppressed.
didn't listen. Evidently,
We weren't comparing Yahtzees to J.K. Rowling.
Excuse me. I literally said that, so you didn't listen to my initial argument.
I'm listening.
I don't need you. I don't need you. But if you were listening, you wouldn't have interrupted.
I wasn't even in this call for a second, so it's nice to meet you.
Sure. So when you immediately jump in, don't start talking when somebody else is talking.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So, in regards to what I was saying, I now get worried that when I was growing up, and it wasn't that long ago, if somebody was a transphobe, you took it seriously. Now nobody gives a fuck. Wow. And the reason nobody gives a fuck, and I'm talking about the majority of people, I speak to a layman every day from multiple nations, it's part of my life, part of my job. They don't give a fuck because it's been thrown around with abandon. And so we really need to get away from not just debating these people out on an issue, because sometimes there is a legitimate issue to be had here, and there is a legitimate conversation. Dismissing it as just transphobic, like with J.K. Rowling, makes an actual bigot.
Okay, but it doesn't change the fact that transphobia, like the definition of it, is, you know, like a strong aversion to or fear of like trans people, right? And I would say that J.K. Rowling's rhetoric is transphobic.
I would disagree. I would strongly disagree. I've looked at everything she herself has said on the matter. I would 100% conclude that she is very averse to the hyper-politicization, specifically in the UK, of the trans community, and its hyper-radicalization associated with other groups, and
I'm
the
really
policy
tired
pushing.
Of listening to the cis guy talk.
Yeah,
how about we listen to a trans voice?
I'm really
On
tired
point
of
with
that
that.
word. That's
Are
why
the
you get no
trans
like.
folks
I think
But
that
no, that's exactly why people
is a
get
fine
no
word.
likes. No, it's a pejorative.
It's not a pejorative.
Yes, it is. It's interpreted as a pejorative.
Words change.
There is
all the
no
time.
need for that word.
It's not
But there was never a need for that word ever.
Oh no, the tone police.
I'm a cis guy. I'm a cis guy. Like
Go,
I'm
cis man.
somebody
It's not
who
hard to say.
identifies as a straight male.
It's been used.
And
it's
I'm a
been used in
woman.
case
So
as
are we going to
pejorative.
listen to the
I'm a
trans
woman,
woman, or are we
and
not?
my identity starts and ends there, and you know exactly what I mean when I say it.
Okay. Livia, please.
Hi, Benny.
Yeah, hi.
Can I say something?
Hold on, but I want to let Livia just speak, just because like the trans topic has been like kind of talked about for a little while, and I would like to have at least the trans person on panel speak.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. So mostly I'm going to focus on JKR. She has made not only public statements like Twitter, for example, that are on their face, like plain reading anti-trans. She has said that trans women are not women. She also funds organizations that actively work in political circles to pass laws to harm trans people. This is public record. This is not debatable. So, having done things like that, I assign her the label of bigot. Why? Because doing things like that against a particular group without sufficient logical reason is literally bigotry. Calling it what it is not scoring political points. What it is drawing attention to the fact that she has a ridiculously massive platform and is using it to normalize these harmful ideas. And if you have any doubts about that, look at her following, right? See how people engage with that content, respond to it, and then look at those sentiments throughout our society's discourse. She is causing harm. She knows she's causing harm, and she doesn't want to listen to reason and change her behavior.
Yeah,
I think
I think we can't deny
really
the fact
ridiculous.
that like
No, it's ridiculous that
certain
I'll find harm
subsets of
here.
people are definitely like closing in as far as like who she has in her inner circles. But I shouldn't have even
But that's
brought
more
up
of a
J.K.
consequence
Rowling.
of other people. That's more of a consequence of other people attacking her. But I'm really sorry. In what 130 countries in the world, you being trans, you're not. It doesn't matter whether you call yourself a woman. Okay, you're not factually to them.
Am
So
I to
like,
you?
no. And the reason you're not to
Wow,
me.
go fuck yourself.
Wait, sure. But the reason you're not to me
No,
is
no, no,
because
no,
I
no,
think
no,
that
no.
you're
I'm
a
not.
distinct.
I'm not listening to you after that. I'm going to
Sure,
talk
you don't
over you
have to.
because
Sure, okay, that's pathetic. That you don't want to hear
you
the full
deny
reason.
my gender identity. Why the fuck does that matter to you? Who the fuck are you? Why do you care how I live my life?
I don't care how you live your life.
But
But
you
if
do
you
because you
expect,
deny
but
my
no,
gender.
yeah, you expect me to conform to your ideals. I don't conform to your ideals.
I'm just
You are
asking.
putting,
That's
you
it.
are. You're
Shut up!
asking
I'm
if I
talking. This is
agree that
basic
you are
respect.
something.
It's basic human
You
respect. If
just said
someone
you were
tells
going
me,
to over
don't
talk
fucking
me.
interrupt me.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you like you said you were going to interrupt me. See how that works?
Great. Talk over the woman.
It's called
You're not a
matching
woman to me.
energy. It's
Hey, can we
called
have a good
matching
discussion here,
energy,
please?
and you're not being
Sure,
calm
I'll
either.
try to.
I
I
don't
was going
owe
to
you
try. I was
respect
going to
because
try
I'm
to
fucking oppressed by
elaborate.
people
let's
like
bring
you.
Wait, I was
let's
going
bring
to try
the
to
tensions
elaborate to
down.
explain,
Let's bring the
but you
tensions
weren't going to
down.
listen. So
Bring
if you
it-
would have listened, I would have said, if we knew each other
Hey, shut up.
personally, and you asked me if I believe that you are a
Shh.
female, I'd say no. But if I should treat you as a
I
woman,
said
I
woman.
would.
woman.
Most is
She
saying
said woman.
So I was trying to
Let's
finish
just
it.
okay.
No.
Let's just shh. Okay, chill out, everybody. Things got a little heated there. And I think that that's great. You know, I think that it's possible to have, you know, like a little bit of emotion and also to like have a civilized discussion. And I think that like the what Livia said was a woman and also bigot. So, you know, and I'm open to the, you know, like the overuse of terms, you know, like watering it down and making the punch of it not so much effective, or you know, even also like to like revise almost like what they were in the atrocities that happened when it comes to as far as like calling like a person a schnazi or not. I don't necessarily do that. I do say like things are akin or comparable. I try to be very careful about that because I don't think that like calling somebody that is not, you know, part of the Third Reich or something like a Schnazi. I don't think that that's really, you know, working. But Wim, did you have something to say?
Just like the core of this is you're not trusting the reality of Livia. Like if Livia is saying they're a woman, why are you so against that?
Well, I have a different version of reality than Livia. I'm a woman. I don't think that we've shared similar life experiences. And I think that, look, it's fine, Livia. You want to live your life as a woman. This doesn't have to be so fraught, okay?
Have
We
you
don't
talked to Livia
have
about
to
her
be-
life? Do you
we
know
don't
anything about
ha-
Livia?
No. I'm using her as an example of anyone.
Yeah, but you said you haven't lived the same a life that.
I have not
actually-
lived.
Factually
As someone
haven't.
who gets a period and has spent 25% of her life managing that, we have not lived the same life.
But
Do
do
you think as a
all
woman you're just defined by a
She
period?
has not sat around with her girlfriends, not going out because everybody's crampy and PMSing and just wants to
get
watch Saving
periods
Private
too.
Ryan, and we all cry together. Look, I'm not saying that is the entirety of the female experience,
But I
but
also
I'm
get
using that
periods.
as an example that is no small part of our experience, and we all sit there pretending like it doesn't matter. And as somebody who actually suffers from a constellation of symptoms associated with their period, it's very fucking annoying to me. Okay, we are erasing the female experience. We are acting like things that are specifically female don't matter.
How
There
many
is no
times do I have to
space.
say that I get periods too?
You don't get periods factually.
Are you male to female or female to male?
That's none of your business.
Okay,
If you're male, if you're
but
female
the
to
thing
male,
is-
that
but the thing
makes a
is
sense
what-
for a
but why
period.
do I-
But if
Either
you're
way-
becoming a
Wait, no,
woman,
wait. Hold on. She said she's a woman, so that means that she's male to female, obviously.
then you biologically
I'm
do not
saying,
get a
like-
period.
No, that's not
Factually.
obvious.
Incorrect.
Listen, even with
Thanks, AK.
gynecomastia, even with certain asexual conditions, even at the extreme, you would be in such a genetic abnormality that it would be very different than being the typical trans person.
Well, how
You would
about
be
I
a
explain
subset of a
instead of you
subset.
assuming?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, please.
Sure, you'd still be a subset of a subset, so it'd be
Yeah,
completely irrelevant to the
I
general
don't feel
discussion.
comfortable
You're
like telling.
misunderstanding.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable telling people like what they do or do not like
But
have
this
or,
is
or
the
experience.
experience of women now. Like
Okay,
Wait,
nobody
Benny,
okay,
this
asked
is
Would you
just
like
a,
to
this
hear
is just a
nobody
matter
asked
of
about my
this
nobody
is just a matter
experience, or
of
asked
do you like
fact.
to
women.
just
This is
assume?
just a
Nobody.
matter
We're
of
having
factual
a bunch
biology.
of men talk about women right
Okay,
now,
we need
which
to
is
pause.
insane for the left.
Liv had something to say
We have two
about
women here.
the
Want to
period
say?
thing.
Yeah, I get hormonal periods. I get cramps. I get swelling, like the bloating. I get all of it. I don't have menstrual lining to shed. That's part of it. And I'll say, yeah, I don't have that experience, but I do have the rest of what you described.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is it
I think that's missing from
psychosomatic? Wait,
the
I'm
conversation.
trying to understand
Okay.
because no, most of those things that women
What?
experience, so I shouldn't even speak about it, is because of the menstrual shedding, meaning because of what's
It's
happening
literally because of
inside.
the menstrual shredding. It's to
Exactly.
do with the
So
menstrual
so
phases, so you don't get
are
those.
you
two okay,
suggesting,
like
Livia?
as two people that were arguing how much there's like nuance of things, like let's
There's
like be
biology,
careful.
there's not
I know,
much
but let's be
nuance.
careful to not just simplify things. I think that
And
hormones
let's also
do
be
affect a
careful to
lot.
not speak over the one woman who actually gets
There's
a full
two women.
period as
There's
God
two
created
women
it.
on this panel.
Look, again,
You,
I'm not trying
Listen,
to invalidate
me as a
your
cisgender,
sex or
but why
anything.
does
cisgender
only
male,
her,
I
why
feel
does
very
her
marginalized right
feelings
now.
on this matter more than mine? Like, I
And I'm
don't
like,
understand this,
Because
and
you're
this is
trying
what
to
I need.
deny my identity,
I'm
and
not-
I'm
I'm
not
not
trying to
trying
deny
to deny your
yours.
identity. I'm trying
This
to have
is
a
the
conversation, but apparently
problem with
only
the
your position
argument.
matters. And that is my
It-
problem. You are erasing women from the equation entirely. You are leaving no
Then
space
join
for
the
us to have
equation.
valid opinions. I would love to, but you keep
Okay.
accusing me of shit and calling me things when I don't have the same opinion as you. It's not right. You need to
didn't
sit
call you
down and
anything.
we can have it. We can look. I'm the one whose spaces have been encroached upon, not you. Okay?
Wow.
You want to join? No, listen. I don't want a society that allows people with penises into spaces where women are naked because I have been abused. I have been a woman my whole life. I know what risk that brings. Do I think that the vast majority of trans women are a problem? No. But I am very aware of the consequence of leaving the door open to men who are a problem. And that's just the society we
P-line.
live in. And you're erasing our fears. I'm not afraid of you. I am not afraid of you. I am afraid of that law. You
Okay,
don't
Hey,
understand what we're talking
Benny,
about.
let's
Benny,
if a
there
man
is
wants or like if an abuser wants to abuse somebody, they're not going to go through HRT. They're not going to transition. They're going to just
You
go off
are not
and do
going
it.
to speak over my
A large
experience.
portion of people
You are not going to
who
speak over my
So
experience.
why do
You
people
are
need to
not
speak
going
over
to
my
invalidate my
experience?
fears.
Yeah.
Just-
You're not
just-
going to
just-
invalidate my fears. And you as a man are not going to sit there with all the comforts of being a big man and tell a tiny 100-pound woman what it is that she should tolerate when it comes to her safety or not. I am
wouldn't
not
you prefer-
listening to that from you. I am not listening to that from you.
I'm
I am
just
a
saying-
small
You're the
woman
host.
in society, and the only reason that small women get to thrive in society is because society has built spaces for them that I'm now getting shoved out of because I cannot compete at 100 pounds. Okay, when you introduce men into women's sports, girls like me who are just hanging on, who are just barely hanging on because we're only competing against women, we're the ones who lose the opportunities. Yes, the most athletic women up at the top, yes, the 1 and 2, they can compete with the men who enter ours. But me, no space for me anymore, and no one cares. No one cares. You talk over me with all of your righteousness for women and rights. You talk over me.
Baby
You
bottles and
tell me
chat
what.
real quick, Benny.
That was not me, by
I
the
would like
way.
to get Benny. I would love to give up my spot for Hanji.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Oh, I'd
Hammer.
like
Listen,
to
guys,
point out where my actual argument was
I
going, because I
feel,
feel like we've
you
jumped
know,
down a different
that
place than
I'm
where I was going with living. So living, as I was going to finish my statement with you, is on a societal level, should I as an individual randomly be told that I have to accept any individual as anything? No. So if you just tell me you're a woman, I don't need to accept it, just as if a biological man told me he was a man. On an interpersonal level, though, 100%. But the thing with legislative law is it opens up so much more of a cat loop than is allowed. And there's somebody studying law, I know this. And it's not that you or most, or even I would say 99% of trans people will abuse this. But when there is any sort of loophole in any legal system, it is down to be abused. And we saw that with the prison system in the UK.
All right, I'd like 10
Well, this isn't
seconds.
the UK,
Just
is it?
one second,
Also,
one second. I'd
time the
like 10
fuck
seconds, please.
out
Give me
with
1 second.
everyone. Shut up,
Give
guys.
me a
Now
second,
I'm
ma'am.
speaking.
Wait.
Hey,
You're
hey,
not gonna
another
be able to
woman
get
with
a
a
word in.
pussy is speaking now, okay?
Wait. Hold on.
Livia,
You just came up.
darling,
Give me...
my love, shut the fuck up.
Hi.
I'm a moderator. I can mute you, bitch.
Okay, I know
Now
you
shut
can mute
up.
me, but you're abusing your power. But why are you telling me to
I
shut
don't
up?
care. I don't give a shit. I just finished saying I'm
Well, maybe
speaking.
don't
So let
kick over
another
women.
woman
Relax.
with a pussy speak. Do
Wait,
you want to be kicked
ma'am.
down? Hey,
Ma'am.
hey, you can come back up when I'm done fucking talking. How about that?
Yeah, let's let Hanji say something here.
All right, Livia, darling, I see you. You are a woman in my eyes. I don't give a shit what these male loving women have to say because they're trying to get brownie points because
I'm
they
gay.
think being a pick-me is going. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking
Oh.
about key lime. Are you a woman? Was I addressing you? Okay, then. Now, with that being said, Livia, I don't give a shit about what the pick-me woman says. You are a woman in my eyes. You have lived a woman's experience, whether it doesn't fit to their standard, because guess what? Not every woman lives every single fucking woman's experience. There are people who are women who have hysterectomies that can no longer get a fucking period. So because they cannot give birth to children, automatically they're not a woman even though they were born as one? Yeah, miss me with that bullshit. See,
That
the
isn't
thing
what she
is that
said.
you're victimizing yourself. Again, I'm not talking to you. Key
No,
lime,
but
the
you're
thing
lying
is
about
that
what
you're
she
in.
said.
Do you need to be put down, Pumpkin? Can you keep your muzzle on? Fantastic, love that. Now, key lime, I think it's kind of funny.
Muzzle is wild
how-
and bigoted.
Yeah. Okay.
Bigot.
I'll be bigoted then.
Not the
You can
cis
come
guy
back when I'm
calling
done.
something bigotry.
Don't worry, Olivia. It's all right. Now, the thing is, Key Lime, is that you're over here attacking Livia, telling her that she hasn't lived your experiences. Guess what, Pumpkin? You haven't lived hers either. So who the fuck are you? At the end of the day, a predator is going to a predator regardless of gender. Straight white men statistically touch and harm children more than any gay person, no matter what. So at the end of the day, you're pick-me Pisha ass crying wolf because a woman sees herself as a woman, not in a narrative that you do, seems like a personal issue. We don't give a shit about your weight. We don't give a shit about what the fuck you went through. How about the black women? Can you fucking speak for us? The Hispanic women, can you fucking speak for them? What about the Arabic women? Oh, no, you can only speak about your white women subjectivity to life. You don't speak for women, period. You can only speak for yourself. That is the difference.
When did I say I was white? Or did you just decide that that's a non-preferred identity and you accuse
You
me
sound
of
like
being
you sound and cry like a conservative white woman is what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, did you make an assumption about me?
I sure the fuck did. Yes, did you not hear me?
Because you don't like white people and you think that calling someone a white person.
Who said I don't like
automatically-
white people? Benny,
Hold
since when
on,
did
hold
I
on.
stop
You just
fucking with
went
you?
off 5 minutes at me. So just hold on one
Yeah,
second.
I sure the fuck did, and I can. Problem?
First of all, everything about what you just said is exactly my problem. There is no space for women to have valid opinions anymore without being totally jumped on and attacked and accused of everything that is undesirable on the political left. There is no
I'm not
space
left.
anymore.
I'm
There
a
is
communist.
What?
So let's get that clear.
That's the fucking left, my dear.
It's
okay,
not.
So,
I
okay,
don't.
fine,
I
fine,
don't
okay,
adhere
fine.
to your
Jumped on by
American
commies,
terminology.
which by some contortion of logic means not left. Fine, whatever. What fucking ever. My
It's
point
literally.
was. Are you okay, host, am I allowed to talk?
Oh my god, my white tears are showing. Host, help me. Like, oh my god.
She's a mod. I can't really like control her. Sorry.
Okay, so she's ungovernable, and so that's how you run your process here. Whoever just becomes ungovernable just gets to take control like a fucking dictator.
I'm
Okay.
letting you
you haven't
speak
seen
as
it.
much as you want.
The irony of that being the exact
Are
playbook
you-
of communism is not lost on me. But anyway, look, this
Did I
is my
ever say
point.
I was communist?
I was a leftist my entire life. Okay,
Good for you.
I voted for Obama, I voted for Clinton, I voted for Biden, and then you guys lost me. Then
Thanks,
this
you guys.
commie,
Yeah.
this jihadi, whatever. But try not to jump down my throat and say,
Jihadi?
yeah. Look,
Hold
I
up, you racist fucking bitch.
have ADHD.
Jihadi?
Wait, how
I
does that
have-
relate?
Okay, hold on.
Jihadi?
Let's not call
Who's a
anybody
jihadi?
personal
Is it
things.
because of the Egyptian flag
If you
that
would
I
let
have
me,
because
if
I'm
you would let me,
multiracial?
if you would let me explain myself, maybe you wouldn't be so outraged. But since you keep cutting me
No,
off at
bitch,
the
you
first
called
clause
me
of my
out my
sentence,
name by calling me a jihadi. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? Jihadi where?
Yeah, what was the point of the word jihadi?
what is the point of this conversation if you keep jumping down my throat when I try to explain?
Hanji, I gotta let.
I know. I got reported because
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Dude, see, this is the problem. You won't let people speak. This is a trip or
Key
something.
lime.
for you.
We've heard you a lot.
Key lime.
No, she asked me a bunch of questions.
Key lime,
to
I
which
have let
was
you
able to
talk.
respond to none.
Please
and then
don't
she
misattribute me.
pouted.
Okay, now I'm going to mute you because you have like misattributed everything that I've given you so much grace here. I've never like tried to like mute you or talk over you. You were like screaming about being talked over when nobody, like literally nobody was talking over you. So like I can't help but feel like you're like projecting onto us or something like that.
I also want to say that
You
the
can
difference
unmute.
the difference between us as women, Key Lime, is that you're denying my identity. And I'm not doing that to you.
I'm not. And I really genuinely
You
already
wish,
said
I
I
wasn't a
genuinely
woman.
wish that I could say more than 3 seconds before you respond to what I say.
You told
said
me I'm
you're
not a
not.
woman.
How are you not?
Can I
saying that.
respond?
People in the guest
Yes.
box, I'm trying to like keep this as like limited right now just because I think that like having more people just affects the like coherence of the actual conversation. So go on.
Okay, but if truly, if it happens one more time where I arrive at a comma, not a period, and someone jumps down my throat as if that's my full thought, completely distorting my intention, I am dropping. There's no point in debating over points I am not making.
That's fair.
I'm not denying your experience, Livia. I have very close trans friends in my life.
Not the tokenization.
Okay, goodbye.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Keelan,
Yeah, like honestly, the tokenizing was something that should have been called out. Like the I have ex friends is a really bad point.
Mm-hmm. Livia, you didn't get to talk much. Do you want to say anything?
When
I would
Keelan,
love-
that
thank
woman
you.
cooked you all so hard.
I
It
find
got
it really
really
funny
got
that,
hard.
I find it
Please start with some
immensely
quiet here.
Sorry, I was letting them up when you.
It's going on YouTube. I recorded that. Hanji
This-
being racist and absolutely
Hey,
being
try and fail. It's already on
The
YouTube.
host letting it happen.
Hey, try and fail.
This is why
Hey, you
I
just
love
tried.
Try and fail.
Keelan.
How can she be racist when she herself is white? Egyptians are considered white in America. She is not a ethnic minority. She's white.
Also, the race had nothing to do with this, and that was brought in a few times, and it was kind of weird that it was brought in to me.
Yeah,
We were talking about gender.
so, Livia, sorry about that. Like I didn't mean to like let a bunch of people in while Wim was like opening up the conversation to you. So please.
Yeah, Benny, no worries. That's just internet timing. So here's the thing, like Key Lime was talking about spaces being invaded and her experience being invalidated, and that's just not factually true, right? The experience of womanhood is so diverse that trying to say that it's valid for, all women except for trans women is a huge problem. Why would you draw the line there? Why would you pretend
Because
to know
they're
what
biological males.
I'm sorry, I was talking.
Please, yeah. Thank you.
And so here's the thing is that sex and gender are different, and you can be a male and a woman. that's not a problem.
That's
Trying to cling
oh, I understand.
to some sort of bioessentialism is so problematic, and I wish you could see that. I wish you could. It's just irrational to say like, oh, somebody has certain chromosomes, and that's an assumption. Not everybody gets karyotyped, and therefore their experience as whatever gender they identify as isn't valid. That's so fucked up.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, but it isn't valid. Nobody's self-identity is valid. My self-identity is not valid.
Well,
Validity
that's
does not come. Validity.
then
Stop
why
it
do
off
you
now.
then why do you care about the
Validity-
label so much then?
So this is why, because validity does not come internally. You don't. If you need to be validated, it's not an internal mechanism, which is the biology, the biological reality, the hormones, the chemicals, everything else. The fact you need artificial hormones and chemicals suggests that you're doing something externally. And unfortunately, in the realms of how people are identified, in very much the same terms as race and everything else, that is an external imposition. So the idea that you're going to demand of other people, external to yourself, that they register and conform to what is not imminently obvious is patently absurd. That is irrational.
Okay, my turn now.
What's a woman?
I'm not demanding that people conform. I'm demanding basic respect. When somebody tells me their gender and pronouns, I acknowledge that and I use their pronouns, and I don't take it farther than that. I don't care, right? But I will give them the basic respect of treating them the way they want to be treated. And I expect other people to do the same for me.
That is not
That's
basic
all.
respect. That's a failure of understanding. Basic respect is that I respect your right to life. I don't impose upon your physical and naturalized
Oh,
rights.
so you're just an asshole
Okay.
then.
No, it's not about being an asshole. You
It
are
is.
asking more
It
than the
is.
basic that is expected for all other human beings.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It is. As a gay person, I
I'm
don't
gay too.
expect.
What's your point?
Sure, whatever. I don't expect anybody to validate externally my own relationships. And I'm also not in the expectations that when I come across a random person that they imminently need to be aware of or know of or I validate in any extent my identity as a gay man. Conversely,
You know
there
why?
are many trans people who don't need that same self-validation from other people, well, external validation from other people. They just exist as who they are, and they don't come across these innately same problems. When you put things in the open sphere, when you put it to open society, society is going to judge, society is going to have their own rulings. And unfortunately, as much as we like to pretend it because we've got a little bit of power now, as a minority, as a gay minority, we don't have the power. If you keep pushing the majority with absurd propositions and demands and call it respect, they're going to push back and you won't be around and neither will I.
Why are you joining the majority?
What is a woman? According
A
to
woman denotes the characteristics of a biological female in adulthood.
That sounds like a lot of trans people I know.
yeah,
That describes me.
what's the
No.
difference?
Yeah.
Sure,
How does that not
sure.
describe Livia?
Sure. Does a biological woman have a penis?
Sometimes.
I don't
Why are
know.
you?
No, never does
Why
she have a
does it do?
penis.
I-
Never does she have a penis. A biological woman does not
Why
have
are
a
you?
penis.
Why
I don't
are
know.
you dictating what a woman or man is based on
Based
the
on
fact that they have
sex?
Yeah,
an
sex and
organ?
gender are different.
No,
Don't
they're
under-
not.
Wait. If you don't understand that sex and gender are different, you are simply not equipped for this conversation.
No, I am equipped for this conversation. When
No,
did we
you're
divide
not.
sex? When did we divide sex
You're
and
not.
gender? When
You
did
do
we
need to-
divide sex
That's
and
my
gender?
point. That's why you're not equipped. You don't understand.
When did we?
You don't
I
understand
understand.
what we're
Don't
talking
comment
about.
on my.
Conversation.
Don't comment on my intelligence because you're
So-
far below me in every respect. Quite
So
frankly,
palliative. I've got
It's
a
not
question
intelligence,
for
it's
you.
understanding of.
I got a question to you.
I
What,
have the understanding as well. I've read all of your
Well,
arguments,
hold on.
and they don't
I
make
So
sense.
what
have-
about cis?
I have a question here. So I have a plug that I plug into my outlet, and it's called the male end. Where's the sex organ on my plug?
Oh, that's just stupid naming.
That's got nothing to do with it. That's a ridiculous argument.
Okay, cool. All right.
For
so,
instance,
I call
where
my
we get the
truck-
word,
I
for
call my
instance, where we
truck
get
a
the word
woman.
man
What
from,
sexual
where we
organs
get,
does my truck
where we
have?
get, where we get the word man
Truck doesn't have sex
from,
organs?
where we get the word
Okay, so my
man
truck
from,
doesn't have-
actually used to be synonymous with all people. So, it's
yeah,
useless using that kind
that-
of naming
I don't
convention.
really care.
It's
So
a man.
the
Of
thing
course
is-
you don't, because you're
the
irrational
problem
and you
is-
don't know what
well,
you're on
no,
about.
no, because the problem is that we assign things genders. We assign them all the time. We don't necessarily
Irrationally, yes.
It doesn't have a. And what makes up a man?
If you're looking at your car and saying it's
Stop
got a gender,
interrupting.
there's
What the
something
fuck is
wrong
your
with
problem?
you. He interrupted
Like-
me multiple times.
So the thing is
palliative,
You
like
don't want it,
culturally
don't do it.
speaking- Culturally speaking,
You gotta
we have
give people like, please don't talk over each other. Like everybody, please don't talk over each other. That's just it. Go on.
So culturally speaking, we sit there and say that a real man does X, Y, Z, and it never has anything to do based upon their sex organs. It's always like, a real man doesn't do, I've been told as a Texan, I'm like, a real man doesn't, do things that require, like, it has nothing to do with my sexual organs whatsoever. So
Yeah,
what
like
we
a real man
see-
would know how to change his oil.
Yeah, like that has nothing to do with my sexual
That's
organs.
socially associated stereotypes.
Yeah,
That's not what I've
because
been
this is
referring to
what-
at all.
But this is what woman and man is. These are
No,
social.
that's
These are
incorrect.
social. Yes, it is.
No, that's completely incorrect because woman and man
Anything else doesn't matter.
at the most basic reading denotes sex because it denotes relationships between two diametrically opposing forces within the human genome. One of which being
Diopposing.
female.
So you're not-
They're completely diopposing. There
So
is
you're
no
not
way.
up to
There is
date on
no
the
way in
science.
which. No, I am up to date on the science.
Well, that's funny because the updated science would tell you that
No,
both
it
gender
wouldn't.
and sex will be a spectrum.
No. That's social science, and social science is about as reliable as a turd stain. Because otherwise, we'd still be following
No,
Freud.
this is actual physical science. This is science, like medical
Fine.
science.
So, what medical science denotes anything about biology that has any influence on the way people identify?
Do what? Say that one more
What
time so I can make sure I
biological
got it.
science denotes anything about biology in the way people identify?
Oh, well, if you were talking about in the way people identify, no. But the thing is like whenever we're talking about sex and being a spectrum, that does have to do with
Sex isn't a
biology.
spectrum. Sex is not a spectrum.
Oh,
Se-
that's what the current science is.
Sex is
referring to.
No, they
modal.
don't.
I would say it's
Being
modal.
gay indicates there is a spectrum.
Yeah.
There are intersex people.
No,
you're talking
yeah,
about
those are. Let's be very clear about this because I hate when people tokenize them. That's sexual malformity. That is literally.
Whoa,
Literally
that's
a
some
breakdown.
eugenics talk right there.
That's not eugenics. Don't misuse
literally
eugenics
is.
either. What is eugenics?
Didn't you just say you're gay?
Yeah, I am gay.
But you're saying you're calling yourself a
No. The idea of a physical breakdown in the biological structures and constructions of human beings versus somebody being gay, what you're proposing is an archaic biological theory that being gay was somehow a malformation of hormones in the body, which isn't true. It's
hang on,
actually
I'm gonna
partly
talk now.
social. It's actually partly social.
I'd like to
but
hear what Olivia has to say.
in returns of asexual beings, like they don't exist within the human
Kelly, can you
genome.
stop?
Go ahead, Lisa.
In the
Can you
terms
stop?
of genetic
Can you stop?
dimorphication,
Can you stop?
Go
Can you
ahead,
stop?
Livia. Go ahead.
we have
Thank you.
two.
Can
You
you
kept on
stop?
interrupt.
Yeah.
We-
You're
We're moving
okay.
on to Livia now. Thank
Olivia.
you.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So calling body parts malformities, deformities, that is literally Schnazi eugenics language. And if you're going to use that, you need to know that people are going to call you on it. If you mean something different, use different language.
Now hold on. Don't like use the term Schnazi unless it's like literally about Hitler.
Well, it was because that was
So
the language. Oh, sorry, Benny. I get.
So to be very clear, interrupted me after you said don't interrupt. I don't care about this fucking Egyptian here who's white.
I was in
A white
agreement.
woman.
That should be white.
White where? Where's the
You
white?
are white.
This should be a
Where's
balanced
the
discussion.
white?
Look up
Where's
racial
the
stereotypes.
white?
You are white.
We don't even deem ourselves white. We are North African.
I don't
Arab,
care
and
if you deem yourself
Sub-Saharan.
white. You
We
fought to
are
be
not
white in
white.
USA. Yes, you are.
I'm not
Okay.
in the USA.
Yikes.
You racist
I'm going to back up Hanji here. The simple fact is just because the USA sits there and deems someone as white doesn't make them white, right? Mexicans, and I'm talking my dad who is full blown like dark fucking Mexican, is on his thing. It will say white. So
Like, damn, Hammy, do I
going
look
off of
white
what
to
the
you?
U.S.
Yeah,
going
I
off
was
of
gonna
what
say-
the U.S. says doesn't mean shit.
There's
The
like white.
idea
The US
of race was
classified a lot of
invented
people
to
that way.
oppress people.
But listen, wait until he finds out that my American dual citizen license and passport say black female. Oh,
I love it because like there's this one time frame where I don't remember exactly which Middle Eastern country, but they're full of people whose skin, like if you were to just know nothing else about them and you just did a close up of their skin color, you'd say, oh yeah, that's probably a black man, right? And what happens is that this group of people back in the 20s had really good fucking lawyers. Really good lawyers, because what happened was they were denied something and they got their cousin, who was a lawyer, to argue on the behalf, and these people who are, like I said, very dark skinned, they got classified as white by the US legal system because of the fact that they had good ass lawyers.
But here's the thing, Hammy, right? It's the same. They do this. American people do, not you guys, obviously. You guys are chill. But they even do this with the Greeks. And the Greeks even tell you, we're not white, we're Greek, because they know there are different sex and phenotypes of the Greek population. The same thing in Egypt. We don't go by skin tone because there's a plethora of us from all different lands, Upper and Lower Egypt. We're all different. So we go by the terrain and the culture. If you're Saharan, or from the C1 oasis, you are considered sub-Saharan because you are closer to the African area. And people tend to forget, during the 7th century, Egypt went through a sub-Saharan and Arabic slave trade during the Muslim invasion, where they took slaves from sub-Saharan African nations and brought them up through the Nile Delta to be sold to the European nations. This was under Arabic rule, Muslim rule, along with other parts of Antioch, which is now northern Turkey. It has never been a solidified color of people or culture. Point blank, period.
Palliative. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna let palliative up. It's
Right, fuck right. Thank you, Hammy. Oh, damn, Hammy, is that you? Hammy, move. Okay.
I love it. I
Despite your
love that.
mods, despite your mods blocking me on 3 accounts, which is pathetic, Reverend, I'm still here.
Oh, Reverend? Don't mess with Reverend.
So yes,
I don't give a fuck.
this
They're
is me.
pathetic.
This is me.
Blocking on 3 accounts.
And
First time
this
I've
here
ever
is the
seen
book
you.
that I'm currently reading. Oh, you've never seen me before?
No,
Oh,
that's what I'm
yes,
like.
this is this is the
That's
Hammy.
gorgeous.
I love it. I love it.
Also, by
this is
the
book that I'm
way,
currently
just
reading.
to clarify something very simply,
We're
you're
having a
still
good time.
white
Why are you talking?
because the Greeks were considered white and European, Egyptians were considered white and European, and race denoted
During
when people were treated
colonization.
differently. Before
Not
colonization.
back then and still not
Before
now. We don't call ourselves
colonization.
white.
Okay.
That is a
When
European tactic.
when were Greeks considered non-European in the 1300s before
Since the
colonization?
Byzantine Empire, are
yeah,
you dumb?
what the fuck?
Are you
Seriously,
stupid?
what the fuck? It's
The
just interesting.
13th century BC is the
Hey.
Byzantines?
Oh my
Yes.
god. Either way, it's just interesting to me that palliative had such an no issue at all when Hanji called Key Lime white, and then Hanji kind of took it back and was just like, you sound this way, and this is how it's coming off, and then now palliative is telling Hanji that she is white, and that's wild to me. To deny somebody's actual reality is not what trans people are doing, but that is what you're doing right now, palliative. That's literally what you're doing.
I grew up I'm white. I'm white, right? The man who I call dad.
You're my
is
marshmallow.
The man I call my dad is my 2 oldest sisters' dad, and he's Mexican. So I grew up in the Mexican culture, right? I grew up every weekend, Dad would go to this Michicana a town over, and get some barbacoa, some tortillas, and the cheese and lime, and that's what breakfast was. Barbacoa fucking delicious. Anyways, so I grew up in the culture
With chorizo.
oh, chorizo. I love me some good chorizo.
In the mornings, it's fine. More of a breakfast
in the
meat.
mornings.
It's a breakfast meat.
Well, yeah, it is a breakfast meat, but
okay.
I literally could eat.
We
the breakfast meat
digress.
anytime.
We digress.
We digress, right? But like, if someone calls me white, I'm like, yeah, that's me. But like, to call Hanji, who yes, the U.S. may classify her as white due to the fact that if her passport didn't literally say that she was black, but like the U.S. legal system may have at one point in time classified her as white. Doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Like what?
There's ways of like presenting, like there's like how your hair curls. There's so many things that go into it. Go on, Livia.
I'd also like to acknowledge that for somebody that was pushing bioessentialism so hard, there's no actual biology behind race. It's a social construct that was created by colonizers, literally to justify oppressing other humans. That's all it is.
As a matter of fact, the book that I held up earlier, it's literally called The Slave Trade, and in the beginning it talks about like right before it was based on race, the slave trade had a bunch of different variety of people, and it's due to the fact that people conquered other people before, and due to basically graping others and all sorts of other stuff, you got a multitude of people who were of differing colors, and it uses terminology in here that I don't particularly care for, but it is what it is. And it talks about how, because of that, there's a lot of difference in colors of people who became enslaved. But then, at one point in time throughout history, we had a moment where the Europeans had solely focused on the people of Africa, and and specific regions where they came in from Portugal. People from Portugal came down to Africa, had stolen these people unalived in mass quantities, other people who tried to protect them. And like just listening to there's one person who was a chronicler that had sat there and chronicled the brutality about how at one point during the coming over there and taking of these people, that you saw a total breakdown in structure where the man of the house who would normally protect his family turn on his wife and children to try to escape this. People were drowning themselves en masse to prevent themselves from becoming enslaved, and mothers leaving children in the reeds to then to try to escape and hide their children, just for those people to find those children in the reeds later on. And it gets really, really horrendous in its description. And the thing is that we should all, even though the language is terrible with what they've called the people, even though the scenes are horrendous, it's something that I think everybody should learn, because it keeps us from eventually trying to rewrite history, for one, and also to keep us from repeating that same history.
Sounds great. I'm buying it for sure.
All right,
It's a hard read, but it's worth it.
I'm gonna drop panel. I'm sorry. I love all of you, but Palliative is gonna come up. I'm gonna have a one-on-one with Palliative. So we're gonna see how this goes. And then I'm probably going to end the live. So
take me down.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me, Benny.
Yeah. Thank you for all contributing. I appreciate everything. I love y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Neri. Thanks all.
Okay. Palliative. Okay.
You're going to have to unblock me, by the way, on all my accounts, because I can't do anything. And I did follow you because I do think that you are reasonable, but I match energy. And the reason that I went off at her for being white, because I agree it's a stereotype, is entirely down to the fact that Key Lime is Jewish, and she not only assumed, but used white as a pejorative. So if she doesn't like it, she should never do it.
Okay. Gotcha. I still don't think that like absolves what like went down, but thank you for the
I think
explanation.
her behavior was demonstrably disgusting, and as a Greek man, I found it repulsive to have my people be represented in such. Coming in the way she did, she could have gone about it 100 other different ways. Coming in screaming and seeing the comments of a guy called Asher, and you can scroll up. He's a disgusting human being. Seeing him play on that
I don't know
in the comments. Oh no, he's like genuinely. He's a British person who generally would want people like living dead, like actually want them dead.
Okay.
He's completely anti-trans. Olivia, sorry. Yeah, but he used her. Yeah, he used her.
I was like, living dead? What, like zombies?
Sorry.
Like Jesus tomorrow?
No. So he would use people like, I can't remember her name, the woman who came up as Egyptian Greek, her example of just freaking out. And even Key Lime, I love Key Lime, but Key Lime was going too far. He used both of that in the comments to spout some horrific shit, which I also was trying to tell people, but nobody listened. He put some pretty disgusting shit in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, and all right. Sorry, I'm just like reeling from everything that went down. It was an interesting conversation, though. I think that things got heated. I think that we can still kind of come out of this with all taken away things. I think that the like the race thing and everything, yeah, like some of it gets a little uncalled for when emotions get hot. People run into labels. And I think that you guys were arguing, like against labels there for a while. But then it's interesting to watch how people will kind of devolve into, like label calling.
I don't agree with it, but I'm so see how I'm being reasonable with you. When somebody interrupts me, I'll interrupt them incessantly. If somebody uses race pejoratives, I'll use race pejoratives against them. Not like the N-word or anything, but if somebody points out that somebody's white and they themselves would be classified as white under the same racial systems,
I see what you're saying now. Like, if I didn't pick up on like that as quickly with the like key line being Jewish and then like Jewish not white. Yeah, I get you what you're saying though. So like you were trying to use it as a reverse or what have you on Hanji.
It's not pleasant. And as vehemently as she would describe that entire situation, the same argument she would use. Like, I'm Yemeni Persian, but I look phenotypically white. I get called white all the time. I
still don't think that like Hanji was, I think that Hanji can act and I think that a lot of people may look at that as powerful. So like your opinion is your opinion. Your opinion's your opinion. And that is what it is.
Off TikTok, if that behavior was displayed in person, nobody would see that as powerful. They'd see that as belligerent, annoying, and they want that person to fuck away from them. In real life, that behavior doesn't fly.
A lot of people, it empowers them. So I'm not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing. I just, I like Hanji's passion. I think that it's a different aspect of the conversation that comes in. That's why I was doing this though. I was like, Hanji, you watch it.
They're speculating on something in the comments here. My mother is Persian. My father is Yemeni. I was born in Greece. Greece is a nationality, not an ethnicity, and I live in the UK. So I have dual nationalities, but my ethnicity would be Yemeni Jewish, Persian Jewish. Not that complicated.
What are your thoughts on the? Sorry, I'm being like ADHD now because
no, I am as well.
We're nearing the end of the show. What are your thoughts on what's going on in Iran and with the Strait of Hormuz?
The Strait of Hormuz, anybody who knew what was going on was going to say that was going to be cut off. I mean, the Iranians, the IRGC specifically, has been trying to cut off the Strait of Hormuz since the 80s. Like, they've wanted to close it off. This was just their quote-unquote excuse. Now, do I think the IRGC should be taken out? Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I speak to more Iranians than possibly should be legal in the UK. I don't know a single one that is not at least in favor of the removal of the IRGC permanently, even like Orthodox Muslim. Like, there is a real deep desire for change, but unlike the USA, there's no action for the people to do it. The way regimes die is usually not when they attack their people. In fact, when they attack their people is usually how they maintain power. And so a regime dies when it's unwilling to. So look at Egypt as a great example with Black September. The reason that Egyptian regime died there was because he was unwilling to attack his people and basically subdue the protest. Whereas the IRGC, they have no problem with this. And they don't allow the people to have guns or to defend themselves.
Yeah,
So
I
what
don't think I
recourse is
disagree
there?
with you at all. On a lot of that. I was more so, I guess, coming from what are your thoughts on like America going in like they did?
That's an American question. I'm not American.
Okay, that's a decent response.
Well, it's your tax. It's not my tax, Tom. Like, do I agree with
know.
the military?
Honestly, like, I'm
action?
not
Yeah.
necessarily against it. It was just like the way that things came about. It's also like the like school like getting blown up and just like the speed at which things were going and the lack of forethought. They didn't really like run it through Congress. I would say like it was almost authoritarian, how it was like unilaterally decided and then done.
From what
I
from
do
what I
also
know,
think that
Sorry.
there was this idea of like an imminent threat that I failed to see where the imminent threat is, other than, you know, like Netanyahu insisted.
Oh no. So this is because a lot of things slip through the media. So ballistic missiles have a range, and the range is not so much dependent on fuel at a certain point. Once you can get a ballistic missile into the exosphere, it's really easy to hit anywhere on the planet. There's an equation for it. So if you can get a ballistic missile high enough, you can hit America.
Okay, but
And
like
so
I mean, North Korea
let
has
me-
ballistic missiles.
North Korea is also nuclear. So North Korea is already nuclear. And
Right.
you don't want another
so,
North
like, why
Korea
so why aren't we blowing
because they're
North
nuclear.
Korea up?
Because they're nuclear. You deal with nuclear powers very differently than you deal with ballistic powers. So powers that have the ability to use ballistic missiles, that's powerful, sure, but the outcost of having a couple of cities hit with a ballistic missile versus the outcost of having a city hit with a nuclear ordnance, even a dirty bomb, is very different.
I see.
It's a very different calculus militarily, and I'm really into military law and I'm really into this. In terms of what changed, ignoring the protests that were happening on the grounds in Iran, ignoring what Israel said, you can go to the IRGC's Twitter page yourself and you can look at what they posted. But really, the internal part was in around November 2025, there was a test of their new ballistic missile. Their new ballistic missile now reaches high enough that when everybody was saying, oh, it could never hit as far as Europe or Diego Garcia, they kind of gave the boat away when they tried that. It's just a mathematical equation. It's just curvature of the Earth, speed of which the Earth travels around, and the ability to hit. And that's all it is now for the Iranian regime. If they really wanted to, they could hit a US city. But it's not just that power. It's also ideological subversion and terror tactics that they have been funneling and attempting to get in the USA. We have counterterrorism operations in the USA and in the UK, France, Italy, all from the Iranian regime. That's an imminent threat as well. That would be classified as an imminent threat to the sovereignty of a nation.
Do you think
So the imminent threat has been there.
Do you think that I don't know if I would say it's necessarily like imminent as far as like things need to be done without like running it through Congress, for instance. Like when it comes to just America alone, To like broaden
Maybe.
this out though, like Trump's asking like members of NATO to come in and kind of help. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he's not invoking Article 5. So I think Trump is doing what this is actually I'm not an American taxpayer, but I actually think Trump's doing the right thing. NATO is a failing organization as a pact. It is completely failing. It is completely true that the United States has bankrolled, and America has basically bankrolled NATO for nearly its entire existence, and that the European powers have just let their armies go to waste. And now most European nations do not have the capacity to defend their own borders. They are 100%, the UK is 100% reliant, if we get invaded tomorrow, on NATO and the USA. We couldn't even take a small town. So I think he's right in calling on them to do something. And the fact they're not doing something, I think gives him the leverage to say, okay, you've proven you can't do these actions when we're a part of a pact. Either get yourself together or we're going to leave.
Why does it got to be such extreme though? Like, I feel like that's like abusive in a way. Just
Europe doesn't respect anything else. Biden and Obama both called on Europe to up their spending in 2013, in 2014, and in 2022. Europe didn't. In fact, Spain outright told them to politely F off.
Yeah, I just wanted
Trump
to get
came
your
in, they did. But when Trump came in, they did raise their spending.
Yeah,
in a big way.
I'm always like a proponent of like do things in stages. You know, like slowly pull out. You know, or like slowly like sundown a program. Or
I wish they did that in Iraq,
right,
and Afghanistan. That would have been smarter.
Like I don't know why everything has to be. Maybe it's like term limits or something. But like even like with like when they were cutting like a bunch of government programs and stuff, like they ended up finding themselves having to spend even more money to like rehire people because they were like, oh shit, we just fired a bunch of people we needed. You know, it's like
the constraint in this is
slowly do it. I just think
the
that
constraint
there's always a
it's
middle
not
ground.
term limits. It's not term limits, but it is threat dependent. Russia's invasion on Ukraine is a threat dependent now necessity for European countries to build up their military. Gone is the Cold War. Europe is being attacked. Ukraine is a part of the Eurosphere.
Do you think that
And
America should be
that
supporting
really
Ukraine?
No.
No?
I don't think that America should be. I think if the American populace want it at this point, yes. But America's, and this is where I think it's a bit unfair.
Mm-hmm.
Your tax dollars have been doing the majority of the work for what should have been the responsibility of the neighboring nations to Ukraine first and foremost. The fact that 82% of the Ukrainian support and budgets in the past 20 years have come from America is an absolute failing on Europe. We are not a poor continent. We could, as a continent, come together and equal what America has been paying in financially.
I almost like I just don't know if I like the whole like angry parent method of like, oh well, you know, maybe we'll just like pull out and you guys can, you know, like bootstrap yourselves, stuff like that. I just feel like you know, maybe a little bit more back and forth and
but since Nixon, this has been an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
with European powers basically being asked to pull their weight in terms of NATO.
Yeah.
It's the nice approach has been tried, and as a European, I can tell you our governments will not take the nice approach. If they can find a way out, they will. Starmer, for a great example, has taken every opportunity to find a way out of supporting the US. Regardless of the president as well.
Yeah. Interesting.
Or regardless.
I just wanted to get your take on it, just as a European. Who I like beyond all of the emotion and everything that was said and you know, personal takes on things. I do think that you're not a dummy. I do. I mean, who isn't? But like, I mean, like, it does seem like you've thought critically on a lot of things. That being said, you know, like a lot of wild shit was said today, but such
I
is
agree, and I think
good
if it didn't
television,
get
though, right?
if it didn't get heated, I think ultimately people like Livia would, if they understood my position more, probably wouldn't be as opposed to it. Because my position is
Well, that's another
like you're
difficult thing.
like you're a nihilist in certain terms. I'm what's called a social nihilist. I don't believe that any individual group owes anything else to any other individual group insofar as personal interactions. So
Yeah.
I don't like when states legislate on it, because I
Okay.
think that creates friction.
So I think the like when it came to like Livia, I don't think that it was necessarily that it's like mandating anything. It was more so like, you know, like if I go by she her, you know, and if you like me, then you would just call me she her.
Yeah, no,
and-
that's literally what I did say. If it's interpersonal, I'd recognize them, but I
Okay.
don't know them, so
But
I haven't owed
so
them
like
anything.
your problem is more so with like a government mandate type of.
Yeah, I
Which,
don't like that the UK
yeah,
has
I get what you're
mandated
saying.
that. So I don't like in the reverse as well. I don't like that the UK has mandated and basically eliminated Livia's argument as well. I don't think that the state should mandate what sex is, or what it isn't, or what gender is, or what it isn't. That's a social issue. And so the UK last year basically said that being a woman is denoted of sex. Now, I might personally agree with a lot of the arguments made, but should the state really have the power to say that?
Yeah, I
I'm
don't.
not convinced.
I don't think so. And like in Nebraska, which is so funny because like it seems so exotic or something, like anywhere other than Nebraska, honestly. And it's like I'm talking to people from Greece and all these things, and it's like I'm over here and literally nowhere. But
No, Nebraska's beautiful. You've got some good national parks. You've got some good national parks. Come on.
maybe South Dakota. But beyond that, in Nebraska and everything, we're actually like they're trying to codify like the term like gender is like sex, or like basically that they're like trying to like governmentally like work it into where gender is not this, you know, kind of vague thing where it is just basically sex. And to me, I fail to see the purpose in that, because like if we have terms like male or female and intersex that denote like what sex is, I don't understand why like woman and man would exist unless there is like some sort of like extra cultural aspect. But so like to like redefine something into like something that already exists is just redundancy to me. But what it really is they think that
I don't like it either.
they think that
way.
men are putting on wigs, and they think that they're going into bathrooms to like in disguise to abuse children, and they're using that to push this legislation. Honestly, I think personally is to create a common enemy or somebody to blame, which is kind of been a theme a little bit of what we've discussed earlier today, which is, you know, like it wasn't always just like black people. It was also like immigrants. It was, you know,
Sorry,
it's trans people. It was gay
Can
people.
I just interrupt a second?
Sure.
Because I'm getting sick of this from Champagne and Hadji in the comments. No, I was respectful the entire time to anybody. When somebody comes in disrespectfully interrupts me, I get disrespectful. If you want to come up and have the same sort of mannerisms as Benny, in the sense that we just have a calm conversation, we can have a calm conversation. But I'm never going to deal with somebody reasonably when they're unreasonable. I'm not here to be your dad. I didn't push you out of a womb. I don't care about you enough. I give what is given to me equally. and just to harp on, I don't like it either way. But I also don't like it in the Netherlands, where they're trying to make it too much the law, where it's saying, oh, it can be anything. It shouldn't be law. There should be a blanket no
like,
discrimination law
yeah,
that says just
I
don't
guess.
discriminate on people.
I agree. I also think that like if it, but like I've come up with I've ran this argument where it's like, oh, if you know, like purposely misgender somebody after they've tried to correct you or something, then it, you know, but that would fall into like harassment, like to do it like over and over again, like in a like malicious
that would
manner.
be belligerent.
Yeah.
That would so I would define harassment as like physical harassment and verbal harassment. I define verbal harassment as using any pejorative or language to attack somebody with the intention of causing them harm.
Yeah.
I think that's far better than how we have it now, where it's really difficult for like anybody, I would say anybody from any side of the spectrum to deal with it, because there is nuance to it. There are people who are verbally assaulted who aren't the stereotypical ideal of what we would perceive a victim. So a really great example is this was happening in China. There's loads of ethnic minorities in China. There is a woman who, if you go back 130 years, would have been part of the ruling class. And she was getting spat on and abused. But because she's deemed to still be a part of this ruling class, despite the fact that she's impoverished, despite the fact that she's a part of a very small diminishing minority, she gets no protection. And I think that's very irrational. But it's because of that idea that she's this perceived non-party that can't be discriminated against.
Sorry, Hanji, I didn't see you were in there. Okay, I am going to wrap this up. But last
could you
thoughts,
unblock my accounts?
Yeah,
so I could.
I'll unblock or yeah, I'll have to look into everything. And I don't know if what got muted and what didn't. But Hanji, last thoughts.
Yes, darling. So it's funny because I did come up cool, calm, and collected, but the fact that I kept getting talked over being a moderator, yeah, I'm gonna get loud. Because apparently the only time motherfuckers want to listen is when I get loud. I don't care if you're not my father or my mother, because you're not, because they're both in my life. And I have a very healthy relationship with my father as a daddy's girl. So let's get that fucking clear. So nice of you to assume that I don't have parents in my life. Second of all, I think it's kind of funny how you want to talk all that shit when I'm in the comments, rather than do it while I'm physically here up on this motherfucking panel. So let's get that clear. You want to talk about giving energy and receiving energy? I'm not done. You had your monologue. It's my turn. I love how you talk about you give energy when it's received. Guess what, bitch? That's what I was doing. Now all of a sudden you don't like it. And you want to go ahead and use a terminology that's American. And even I clearly stated twice that my documents say that I am a black woman, and you still continue to fucking call me white when I already told you with actual American documentation that I am a fucking black bitch. Hello?
Well,
all of a sudden, it goes through one ear and out the other. I find that really fucking interesting. Second of all, I don't phenotypically look white. I get the oppression, especially when I first went to the States. You don't know what the fuck I went through because I didn't live the white experience, bitch. I lived the black one. So let's get that motherfucking clear. So the next time you want to talk about, oh, I give energy when it's received, guess what, bitch? I gave it first because that's the energy you fucks gave me when you couldn't even shut the fuck up for 2 goddamn minutes so I could address someone on the panel that wasn't even you. I stated her name, Livia. Last I checked, motherfucker, your name ain't Livia. So, with that being said, yes, I'm a moderator. I can fucking do that.
Doesn't matter. You were going to get disrespect from that moment. Nobody cares.
If the host
Nobody
gave a
cares that
shit,
you're a
host would've
moderator.
stopped
That's just
me.
a power trip.
I don't give a
but the
shit
host
what
is
you
evidently
think.
your friend.
I'm sorry, my pussy has more power than you because it pushed out 2 motherfucking kids out this motherfucker.
Wonderful.
I don't care.
Can you stop screaming like a whelp? It's
Okay.
I'm
not
not
helping your
screaming
case.
like a
You don't
whelp,
need to-
first of all,
You are.
and that
You
sounds
are
more like your
screaming.
mother, not me. So let's get that fucking clear. Clearly, she should have swallowed your pathetic ass. Now, with that
See,
being
it's funny when
said,
she does this, but if I do the same, she mutes and acts like a pathetic coward. So would you like me to
actually,
actually
we have a
I'm not the
history.
one muting you. I'm not
We
the
have a
only
history.
Would you
moderator
like
in
me
here.
to
And
talk
bitch, you
about
wanna
your
talk about the
mother?
fucking
I
All
bet
right.
you're a
you want to wait
bad
until
mother
I'm
with the
off
way
the
you
fucking panel to
react.
fucking say
I
something.
bet you're a
You're
fucking
pick
awful
me.
This
mother
is
with the
my-
way
Pick
you
me
react.
for the white
Hey.
man. That's what it is.
Everybody,
Really?
Everybody, this
I'm
is
not
my
the one who comes in
Sally
acting
Jones
like
Raphael.
this.
Okay,
Yep.
this is my Sally Raphael or whatever. Everybody, just Bring it back. All right.
Somebody acting that emotionally unstable
I
probably
gotta
shouldn't be a
close the
mother.
live down,
Yeah,
y'all.
I am emotional.
Hey, okay, yeah. No,
Unstable.
sorry, I didn't
Being a
mean to
woman.
yeah. Sorry.
No, I know, Betty. It's okay.
I gotta close the live down, guys. I wanted everybody to get whatever
He's not going
feelings
to.
off
He's
their
too
chest.
busy trying to be a pick-me.
Yeah, and
I
How am I
mean, you
being a
heard him. He
pick-me?
sides with Trump, so that right there should be your
I
answer.
don't. Wait. I don't side with Trump.
You
If you
literally
heard what
did.
I
You made a
said,
whole fucking
we
argument
don't have
for
the time
if
to
you heard
get
what
into
I
it.
said, you'd have known
did
about
hear.
that. But you're
I did
clearly
hear.
you're clearly not good at listening, are you?
Clearly, you're not, Pumpkin.
I'm very good
Who
at
has
listening.
a
That's
degree
why
in
I
ancient
understand what you're
history?
saying.
Not you.
Me.
That's how
Yeah,
I know
and in
what
clinical
the fuck
psychology.
race is, aside
Wait,
from
and in
phenotype,
wait,
dumb fuck.
excuse me, and in
Excuse me,
clinical psychology, and I'm getting one in law, so I'm way more.
Last I checked, host said he's done.
Yeah, I gotta close the live down, guys. I'm sorry. I really want to keep this going, but I got to. I got a lot of stuff going on today. Hanji, I love you.
I love you, my friend.
I thank you all, for everybody that came up on a panel. And I don't want to ban anybody or anything like that. I want to be able to keep the conversations going. But I appreciate everybody that did come up on panel. Opinions and everything. I think that the only way that we're going to get somewhere is by, having these tough conversations. So thank you all. And everybody have a great Holy Saturday. Jesus Zombie Day is tomorrow.
Gross.
So praise Zombie Jesus. All right.
You got my husband laughing over
Happy
here.
Easter. The Easter Bunny's way cooler. All right, guys. Bye.
Love you, Benny.